for any brand of a decent size, this is 100% a way to stay ahead of everybody right now.
Oren John, also known as Oren Meets World, is a creative operator that's held leadership roles across marketing, products, and brand. He's helped scale startups and legacy brands alike. And as a creator himself, he's built a personal brand that drives real business value.
That's the best part about the creator income. I make way more money than when I was an executive. We used to live in the same house. We drive the same cars. I would scream from the rooftops at how big of a generational opportunity that is, that the window is not going to last forever. People just ignore.
In this episode, he shares how creators actually make money and the systems behind content creation at scale.
If you can't turn your creative ideas into something that is like a process or actionable, then you're going to burn out.
We dive into platform strategy, brand positioning, influencer campaigns, and how small teams can build a content machine that punches way above their weight.
Everyone on the internet is improving at what they create every day. I'm such a better creator than I was 6 months ago or even a year ago. So if you're expecting the same thing to work, it's not. You have to be leveling up at the same time. People get stressed by that. And it's well, strive for fucking greatness.
If you're building something today and want to supercharge your content, this episode gives you the playbook. I'm going to tell you something I have not said it. I guess I'm just going to put the juice on the camera right now.
One of the most valuable things most creators don't do is a business in itself.
So what is the key to great content in 2025?
That's a great starting question. You either need to be making content that's ultra valuable that people are going to bookmark and stick with, or content that's as entertaining as television, basically. Those are your two options.
So value or entertainment.
And then the best do both.
The best do both. Which one do you think is the less saturated path right now?
I still think it's value, mainly because niche expertise, the value that's an all-time high. And whether you are a doctor, a surgeon, a marketer, whatever it is, literally sharing the exact things that you're doing. And every single person is willing to now engage with this value-driven content that didn't exist, frankly, 5 or 6 years ago. Even if you go on TV, you weren't hearing foremost experts in their field or people with a super niche application, go deep into it. And that's right there. A good example is we had a knee doctor, and he's literally just yapping about knee problems, no production, no anything. Views are just going crazy because so many people have those knee issues and they now have someone to talk to about it, relate to it, who's a professional. I think there's just so much room there.
Yeah, something that really, really surprised me when I first started doing the podcast, when I did my first podcast, very much so based on the individual. And I started realizing that topic was way more important. And I'm starting to see in some of the big podcasts, it's value-driven, very niche specific, AKA like a doctor. No one knows who they are. The name isn't even in the title, the thumbnail, but they're just going deep. And those are actually the ones that are performing better.
Yeah, instant credibility. If it is a doctor, if it is whatever. So there's that kind of value. I kind of map out all the different things that will help someone succeed. You kind of have to then narrow down to what you have. And you really look at, okay, credibility. Is there innate credibility in what you've done? Or even that guy does his video in the doctor blue outfit. Immediate win, right? If you're not a doctor and you want to sell supplements on the internet, you should probably get one of those. But then you look at things all right, hotness helps. Hard to argue. Also, original looks. If you just look oddball, that helps. So whatever stops the scroll. And then your production value or lack thereof, or there's every one of those things compounds. And if you have all of them, if you're the perfect mix of everything, you have a way bigger potential. But if you're not, if you have any amount of those, you can still stand out.
I think what you're really backing into, we talked about it actually a lot in the Caleb episode, is just positioning. I think finding and knowing and owning your position is at the core, the top of the pyramid for content.
Yeah, whatever your position is. Because again, if you are 21 years old and you're just beginning your journey as a junior art director or whatever, that's also really interesting to other people on that same journey, or people that are just a couple years behind you who are 17 who might be I don't want to follow some unk to tell me about this. I want someone who's kind of right one step above.
Something really interesting on the value side too, and this is a mistake that I had made in the past and I made sure in this chapter I took a long time to think through it. Value versus entertainment. For people listening, if you're doing entertainment, you could be in your 20s, you could be doing some random fuckery. Do content that you know is going to age well. So from a value perspective, what you're doing, what I'm doing, I'm going to want to be sitting across the table in 20 years and learning from people that are more intelligent than me in certain topics. So for me, the entertainment is it's a risky route. I know a lot of people that have crushed it on that side, and now they're 32 years old and they're do I want to be doing these slapdick videos?
Yeah, completely. And I think it's more of you don't want to live not in one of those zones. I think the bigger problem is a lot of people don't actually entertain or don't provide value and wonder why it doesn't work. They're trying to promote their message, or they're making content about their brand. It's not entertaining and it's not valuable. There's kind of no room there. And so I think getting pigeonholed will happen to anyone who doesn't evolve, right? And even content creators, look at the previous generation of gurus or anything like that. A lot of them didn't evolve. They tried to keep doing the same thing. Whereas I think what's smarter about the generation we're in is like, we know the algorithms change, we know content changes, and we're willing to roll with the flow. I'm not going to be like, hey, guess what? I'm going to keep doing this style because it's what worked 3 years ago.
Yeah, another big thing that I talked about a couple episodes ago that you're saying, you nailed it on the head. And ironically, I was just talking to my buddy yesterday who sold his company for $100+ million. He was a big marketer. He doesn't know what's going on now. If you don't know about what's going on in the here and the now, you are extinct in as little as like 4 to 6 months. And for me, like that's what drew me to you when we spoke the second time we were outside Lighthouse. I was like, this guy is so fucking deep in the game. You are so deep in the game. And I'd love to know from a content perspective, what are you doing from a time block and a consumption to get all these ideas? You're an idea machine.
Yeah. And so I want to hit that in one sec, but first I want to kind of address that first point of just relevancy and staying relevant. So I left my job maybe a year and change ago. And the first thing I noticed like 5 or 6 months in was like, oh, I can't actually talk about this the same way of like being super deep in marketing, performance, content, because I'm not running a 12-person, 14-person team. I'm not at a brand trying to do 100 mil a year. And so I'm not sharp anymore. It's part of the reason why like I recently went back and started working part-time because I was like, I need to be in the mix so we can have the conversations on that level and so I can make good content. And then time blocking to get there, everything just has to be intentional. Like your life is a schedule. And I feel like when you're an executive, like I was coming from the world where my life is blocked out 30 minutes to an hour a day, the entire day into the late hours. We're talking to China at night. And so like it's every day is half-hour increments. And then if you go from that to not having a schedule or you've never had that, that's where it's hard. But I just was like, I need to approach my work life in the same way. But now I just have a wider breadth of projects and I have less like political corporate bullshit to deal with. So I can fill those slots up with what matters. But even like my scroll time is actually like blocked off. So for instance, like I do a lot of work in the beauty niche. I have multiple time periods blocked off every week, half hour for about 2 or 3 times a week, specifically to scroll beauty content. To be like, I'm building my reference list for ads, for organic, for strategy. And I'm not ever scrolling any of the rest of the time. I don't ever waste my time doing it. But I know like I have that broken into a half-hour period. And I think if a lot of people are just intentional with what you need to do to achieve the goals and then block time for it, you have a lot of time in the day.
For all the creatives out there, I feel like it might be against your general nature to do stuff like that, but time blocking is definitely huge. I want to get a little bit more granular on that. Do you have different like trap phones that are feeding into the algorithm? So you have different phones for different niches?
I have 2 phones with multiple accounts on. It's not a different phone per niche because you can have multiple accounts, but I do have 2. And then because I have so many. So basically I am scrolling for myself. I have one dedicated time a week where I'm like, I'm scrolling for me. I'm looking at other gurus. I'm looking at people in different niches. I'm trying to build my own like library, right? And then I've had clothing brands forever. So I'm looking at that. I have beauty. Now it's actually a little easier. Before I started working where I am now, where I'm really focused on beauty, I was doing like 5 or 6 niches. So it was kind of a nightmare. But now I'm really just going back and forth between my stuff, fashion stuff, beauty stuff. So I have accounts for each. Like the real hack around that is to set up TikTok and Instagram, follow only people in those accounts from a new account, and then only scroll and browse that content and be conscious of like, hey, I want to scroll a little faster a few days because it's going to show you shorter videos, or I want to really watch everything a few days and it'll show you longer stuff. The algorithms are good at that, but like having those accounts to log into and have that history is like how you build a feed. You want to build a feed that's similar to your customer. Like what influencers do they follow? What brands do they follow? What does their feed look like? That's how closely you want to mirror it.
Makes a lot of sense. I guess my other one big question, so different phones, different accounts. What is the back-end system to make sure you don't lose track of any of this? Are you using Notion?
Yeah. So I have a big master Notion, basically my creative toolkit. This is one of the concepts I feel like a lot of creatives miss that are like super useful. It's basically like your bookmark organization. So every Sunday for now years, I have basically started off as, Sunday, people get Sunday scaries, those kind of things, anxiety. I would combat that by kind of kickstarting my week. And I usually basically would just organize my bookmarks. Everything I bookmarked on Instagram, Twitter, anything I put in my Safari, I would basically put in this master Notion doc. And it's now like years old. And so I now have like, that's a weekly time I have every week. I'm usually like watching TV or whatever, and I'll organize that. And, but now I basically have this huge doc and it's literally has all these breakdowns. So it's like, is this for a campaign? Is this for a launch? Is this a tool? So it basically has a selector for like what it is for, and it has like notes and it has the link. But now I can go and I can be like launch content and like just click the button. And then here's all my launch references. And there's like hundreds. And then I have now a new column with like, I've tried it or I haven't tried it. So then if it's something where I've actually acted on it, I can know if it's something like I want to experiment or if I want like a proven winner. And so I had this like basically this huge doc. And it's just the most valuable thing I have, right? Because now I can go make a creative strategy for a campaign or a thing so much faster than if you have to go find all those references. And I'm adding to it constantly. And I just encourage every creative, if you think like that, and now I'm crazy, so I don't want to put it out there for everyone, but I have the same thing for every photographer, every agency I come across that does good work, every creative director. I have like a separate doc. It's just them. So when people are like, oh, we need to hire for this campaign, I'm like, oh yeah, let me just go browse through. Like there's hundreds of people on the photo list and I have location on there now. A VA helps me put that in there. But it's like, hey, okay, now we're shooting in Paris. Great. I actually have 15 people in Paris whose work I know I love. If you're like just obsessive about cataloging all the things you come across, like your life as a creative will become so massively easier over time.
Yeah, I think especially with AI coming so fast, I feel like curation and taste are going to trump absolutely everything. And just, it's like from the book Atomic Habits, like just like readily having available all of these ideas neatly put in one spot gives you a crazy competitive advantage against everybody else.
Yeah, well, operators and EQ as well, I feel like are really important. And so by EQ, I mean like just the interrelationships between people. Because the one thing I've noticed is like, it's actually easier to get cool stuff than ever, right? You can get it served to you on social media. You can ask ChatGPT what the right brands are or what photographers you should consider. It'll probably give you pretty good answers. But then it's that whole like, oh, okay, I'm in Paris. I need to convince a good photographer in Paris to drop whatever they're doing to work with me because the client or whoever needed the shoot last week and we're on a budget and they want to see my creative vision and I am savvy enough or have the right following or funny enough or interpersonal enough to be able to get that to happen. And I'm willing to do the work to be like, I'm going to connect these 8 dots. Like that's the toolkit that separates like creative director, creative strategist, brand owner, marketer, who's like a powerhouse.
Yeah, I think there's so many different new tools. I recently started using this tool called Poppy.ai.
Yeah,
and it basically is what you're talking about in Notion. And then you have back-end rules and a Bible. It's one click. And then it could potentially, if you're meeting with someone in 30 minutes and you have all of your ideas aggregated, it can spit out like a little mini spec or brief to pitch.
Yeah, I've seen some people use it to like summarize. Yeah, basically do that exact thing. That's savvy. All these things are going to help save you time. So now the alpha is going to be on like, all right, I'm the actual one who puts the shoots together. I have pre-existing relationships. I already have a light relationship with all those people because I send a lot of DMs and I'm funny. That's going to be what separates people from the stuff that just AI can do.
What do you think is the most underutilized place where to find inspiration or good content ideas?
I print in magazines. I have like, my house is like a library. And I grew up like that. My father was an English teacher and we said books everywhere. But like I have so many, like I buy lots of magazines on eBay and weird sites. Like I have all the B magazine from Korea. I have all the Chrome Hearts mags from like the 90s and stuff, which are amazing. Yeah, even things like Popeye, whatever, all the monocle, like the stereotypical stuff. But like having a lot of print references, I think is super useful. Because even just like that ability to scroll through them. And then you'll notice they're not on, you want stuff that's not on Tumblr and the aggregation accounts on Instagram. Like you want stuff outside their algorithm. And there's a lot of that in print. And a lot of the good ideas that come from it. And you'll see that world is so wide if you look at like the past 20 years of what's been released. And there's so many stores or whatever, whenever you travel, just going and hunting that down. Like I'll go to Casa in New York and like blow hundreds of dollars and be like, bring back stuff I've never even heard of the title. I think that's the most underrated thing to do. And then you're also just doing it in an analog fashion. But I think it's just getting off algorithm means your ideas won't look like other people's.
It's so funny that you just said that you'd spend hundreds of dollars on a magazine for an idea. Just curious. Yeah. What's the most amount of money you would spend on something for a good idea to get good content?
Oh yeah, so I have this pretty mapped out. I'll spend $1,000 is around my like, if it makes a banger video, it's worth $1,000 to me. It's kind of what I've aggregated, which is like a pretty, I actually feel like that's a low sum. But you kind of look at it like, okay, what does a brand deal get you? And then what do things get you towards momentum or clients or whatever? And like, obviously I'd like to do it for less, but if I see something, I'm like, it's $1,000 and that'll be good. That makes sense. I think a lot of creators look at it that way, especially creators who unbox, like I'm unboxing Bottega or this scent or this whatever. Brands too. One of the things I always talk about when I do like brand workshops is I'm like, hey, everyone wants to cut the budgets for their team. They don't want to do shoot budgets. They want to do content in the low. And I'm like, all right, the $100 budget, like that, you need a list of what are things that are under $100 that will make your video pop. Vintage camcorder, like printer, silly string, whatever it is, like make that list and then you're pulling from that. But if you don't have that list to start with, you're like, oh, I have no budget. What am I going to do? I think it's a really crucial exercise.
We're going to get deeper into content. We're going to go both long form and short form. I want to start with short form. I would love to just know your process on short form in a sense. What are the important elements of a short form video to really get it to stick?
Yeah. So hook number one is basically like, how do you get people to stop? I think it's talked about endlessly online, but still super important. And then just the value, like my starting point for everything is just like, how do I make the most valuable content for my target demographic that they are going to want to share in their work Slack? As like 100%, every goal for my content like revolves around that. for my content that's centered towards businesses. I have some other content that's centered towards more consumer. And then my goal for that is, how do I start a conversation in the comments? So I think it's really just basically like hook and goal are really the two things I think make the most sense. And then as you then look at how you build it out, it's like, how do I retain people through this? Like, where would I lose them inside the narrative of this video, whether it's 30 seconds or a minute and a half? Like, how am I continuing to keep people's attention? And this is why you see green screen creators have it pretty easy, because you can put graphics behind you and swap them in a certain amount.
My man is crushing on the green screen. You were the number one. You're the Michael Jordan of green screen.
Yeah, and so look, and you get pigeonholed. You're like, oh, my green screen creator. That's why I started doing a lot of vlogs and like other content, so I could have a bigger toolkit. But like, it's great because again, you can look at something and watch it. So it's intrinsically more interesting for somebody to be like, I'm going to look at this image and take that in while this guy's talking. And so, but I do look at that. Like, what's your hook and what's your goal? And my goals are like dead center for every video. So if I'm going to go make a video about art direction, it's like, how do I make a good enough video that it gets shared in work Slack? And if I'm make a video about pans or whatever, it's like, how do I make a video that's good enough that people are going to be arguing in the comments about whether like this pan or that pan? And so I think like having those two barometers has really helped me, where like I don't make content with really any other goal.
So I would say you're probably more of a value-driven creator, and then you kind of sprinkle in the entertainment.
Yes, exactly. And I think that having the duality of both is great. I use humor just like a lot. I'm not like saying I'm like a comedian, but like I throw a lot of humor in there that's like
low-key funny, bro. You're low-key funny.
Yeah, no, and that's like a useful thing, right? Because you have to have something, right? Either you're like, I'm not, some people watch you just because you're beautiful. I'm not that dude, you know, right? So like I got to use humor to the advantage. And then also just like establishing like a relationship or credibility. Like I like to feel like people know like I do ads or whatnot, but they are be like, this guy is 100% dedicated to giving me value. He like, if you look at all my content, you're like, all he does is just give away stuff for free that helps me. And once you build that up over time, like I was keeping them for a while and then stopped because it lost track. There's like hundreds, if not thousands of people that are like, you really changed my business. You impacted this. I launched this because of you. And that energy just like perpetuates. And you can feel that in the comments, in the thing. And if someone has that perception of you, that's like a weapon in its own way that I feel is like so valuable.
Yeah, man, I love these comments I've been getting lately. Like, how is this not behind a paywall? Yeah. Like that puts a smile to my face. And I'm in the same, I think, bucket as you, where focused unequivocally on value and respecting the audience's time. And then secondly, I'm trying to get better in just like showing my personality more. Yeah. But I'm just so laser focused on the value where it's just hard to fucking do.
That's why I'm always like, if the video doesn't have something funny, I'm like typically not posting it. But it's just hard to be that funny on demand is the other thing. Like sometimes it's easy. Like I wrote a video last night about rebrands in like 30 minutes and had like 5 jokes in there. And it was just like, it was natural. It came. But then sometimes you're there and you're just forcing it. But like, I'm trying now not to post if I don't have that. Cause like with the way value content is, I can't sprinkle in like personal anecdotes. Or even if I go do vlog content, it's like what I did in a day, like no one cares. They're there for the value, right? So it's like within that context, how do you dial it up a notch?
We're going to go back to that day in the life, no one cares. We're definitely going to circle back to that one. I want to just tie a bow on that short form content. Focus on the hook, first 3 seconds, keep them reeled in. And then the ultimate goal, you mentioned shares, saves are another big one. Do you have any different kind of strategies from how to get people to push hard and talk in the comments? Because for me, that's always the weird one for me. Like I'm trying to do like a CTA to initiate a conversation and I never know what to say.
CTA doesn't work, right? So it's more about make a take that people have to argue about or have to have an opinion about. And this is an interesting one. I think can talk a lot about this because I feel like we were basically like almost neutered as a generation where you couldn't have an opinion. If you said something was bad, it's like, oh, you can't say that that's bad. And then if you say something is good, you're just like, oh, well, they're just a shill, right? And so everyone's in this weird middle ground where you can't really have an opinion. And so I feel like it's actually stand out if you have an opinion. And it's why content series like I make and a lot of people that copy my content make, where it's like, this is good or this is bad, or you're buying this for this reason, or you're buying it for that reason, or here's what this says about you. Is like it identifies a thing where someone's like, well, that's wrong. And they want to talk about it. Or where they're like, oh my God, I feel so seen. I agree. And so I think it's like just having takes that are at that level. But we've been basically educated to have everything be so neutral. And I think that's where you get that standout as a creator is being like, no, this is wrong and here's why.
You just solved the problem for me. I'm done. The CTAs, it's just always so weird, confusing, and cheesy. So coming out of that, it's just, they always say, like, just make a hard stand on one thing, and then that's just going to create the comments.
Well,
for
my CTA on all the videos is tell me why I'm brutally wrong in the comments. Like, I'm encouraging you, like, shit on me. Tell me why this is terrible. That's what I literally say. And it's good, and people feel the complete license to, I mean, look, I've gotten like death threats because I like, called someone's mattress, like the wrong mattress. Like, so like people take it way too seriously, but like still, like that's the point, is spark the conversation. Like you are a conduit, as a creator, you are a conduit for value in someone's life or for a conversation someone's going to have, or you're just pure scroll entertainment. And like, and if you're not any of those three things, you are literally nothing.
I love that take.
Guys, quick 60-second break. I am so excited to announce our first partnership. It is the perfect fit for me and what I believe in, and more importantly, you, the audience. I have personally spent tens of millions of dollars on meta ads. At one point, it made up 95% of my entire marketing budget. That kind of platform dependency is a real risk. One algorithm shift and your whole entire business can stall. This is why I partnered with Universal Ads, the CTV ad platform powered by the biggest names in TV, built for any size business. In under 5 minutes, you can advertise across the best shows on NBC, Paramount, Roku, and more. You can reach up to 90% of the households in the US at social media CPMs. And the platform gives you full control. You can target by viewership, behavior, income, geography, custom audiences, and more. Just like you guys are used to seeing on social. I'm giving out $500 in ad credits with my referral code to the first 50 people who fill out the form below. First come, first serve, it's gonna go fast. And if you're spending over $300K a month on paid, I have something special for you. Everything's in the description below. Go diversify now and appreciate the support.
I want to back into just a 30,000 square foot view on just content as far as buckets and formats.
Yeah.
How do you look at like your holistic content strategy?
Yeah, so I've worked a lot on this over time. So I wanted to have a toolkit. Like one of the original reasons I started content is I wanted to be good at it as a CMO. I wanted to be like, I know how to task it. I know how our team can create it. And so I wanted to create a lot of different styles. And then now, same thing, I want to have everything in my toolkit. So I've done interview content. I've done like the trade show and had figured out how to get that to pop off. I've done carousels. I've done vlogs. I've done the one-shot content. I've done skits. So my whole thing is I'm experimenting at least once a week. Like I did a skit last week with another creator. It's like an experiment. But I look at it as like you have all of these tools with which to share your message. And that's really important because people consume content in different ways. For instance, like I don't watch any talking videos, green screen videos. It's hard for me. I've got like severe ADD. So if I'm going to sit there and watch something for 60 seconds, it's going to take a lot. I consume a ton of 9-second content, the caption over the thing, like all day. That's my feed or carousels. And so I feel like that's something worth noting as a creator, especially for me as a green screen primarily creator, is like, okay, not everyone consumes like that. So I need to match that with vlogs where they can just follow along, or carousels where they can just read it, they don't have to listen. And then my available market of the message I'm trying to share spreads. So that's my my exact format is I'm doing basically 4 to 5 green screen or talking value videos a week. Maybe 1 or 2 of those slots will go to a carousel. I don't love carousels as a format because I think it's really easy to be saturated, but I'll still use them. It's good bottom of funnel content. And then I will do 2 travel or like vlog pieces where it's just me talking and I'm in the videos, but I'm talking over footage. And that's like that travel content has been huge for me. And like even just going to places I'll do the 3 things I saw at Erewhon this week, or like I'm going to this new Matty Matheson opened a burger joint. Here's why I like the design, whatever. So that content's really crucial. And then I kind of do one big, I try to make one like viral top of funnel video every week, whatever format that is.
So looking at from a content formats perspective and kind of content buckets or topics perspective, you went through the content formats. What about, how do you look at like topics in general?
So I have a 4-pillar strategy where basically like there's 4 topics I'm focused on at any given time. And I will rotate them in and out as they like fail or perform. So for instance, I used to do packaging content a lot, like cool packaging. That no longer kind of resonates. I think like that era of that being exciting is done. And so that kind of phased out. But like right now, my buckets that I'm talking about are like marketing ideas. I don't want to do any like this brand did this or this playbook because there's so many other creators doing it. So I'm like, here's an idea about marketing. And then I'm doing art direction content. I'm one of the only creators who like is and can kind of do that. So that's like a big one for me. And then the travel content is like the 3rd pillar. And then just like basically what I call shopping content, which is just like talking about brands and why we buy. And those are like my 4 current pillars. One of those at some point, it'll be like the travel content's kind of flopping. I should sub that out for something different or this or that. But I think if I have more topics than that, it's too much. It's like my content's too wide, but that 4 is kind of the perfect number. And I can stack multiple videos on each of those in any given week, but those are like my North Stars. And I evaluate that basically every month.
You said 2 really interesting things there. 1, so many people are doing it and you're off it.
Yeah.
And then 2, to start, you talked about just the maniacal testing. Ironically, on the drive here with Jake, we were talking about like how we're doing these teasers, and they're actually ironically starting to pick up steam from a views perspective. But we're already thinking about how do we iterate off that and what's the next thing. For people listening out there, you need to think about the next thing before the current thing runs out. And I think people like, you want to drain it and you want to get all the juice that you can get out of it. But if you're not thinking about the next thing, you're done.
Yeah, well, look, and I obsess about this for like, look, at the end of the day, like what I do now is essentially I'm a creative strategist. And so I'm obsessing about my content, brands content for people that are in Cut 30. I'm like really thinking about how do you stay ahead around that? And you just have to like build The hard part is people will obsess about that, but won't have like a toolkit. That's why I think the scheduled time we talked about is so crucial, where I'm like, I am adding to this toolkit. I am solving the worry in the back of my head by building this list of what comes next. So I know I always have something like in the hopper.
Yeah, I can't, like, for me, just like doing some research on you and talking to you more, I'm going to go so deep in just organizing my ideas and thoughts. I think it is one of the most people don't do that, quite frankly.
But it's crazy. Like I look at, like I organized my vacation in Italy because I take photos, and I was like organizing here's every illustration, here's the colors I liked, here's the just logos and stuff. And like, cool, I might not use that tomorrow. It took me 40 minutes on a flight to put it all like on a Milanote board. But like, I'm going to come back to that at some point where I have some sort of heritage project and be like, oh yeah, I actually have 50 references no one else has. It's just crazy, like why, and also you look back at, in 20 years, you go want to look back at your life. Be like, here's all the things I found interesting. Here's and you talk about teaching or value for the next generation. Like, I'm going to just release that toolkit at some point and be like, here you go. And it will be like, not as valuable as like, Virgil Abloh's free thing, but like, hey, let's get as close to it as we can, right?
An interesting thing that I want to bring up, I think it's not many people do it. It's kind of my thesis. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. Is I love how you have the topics. They're changing based on probably your passion as well. What's working, what's not. For everybody listening to you on the format side, I feel like you can stay with the format a bit longer, AKA like you with the green screen. Like you should ride that out for.
Yeah, but you have to add other ones in. Yeah.
Adding in other ones. I think another big thing, it's how I look at a lot of my life decisions as well, is I look at it under a rubric where it's low, medium, or high lift from a resources perspective, and then low, medium to high impact.
Completely.
And for us on my brand side, on Iconic side, we did this whole entire exercise and we kind of labeled all the different buckets based on that rubric. And then we know on a 20 post allocation, we know 10 of the 20 posts is going to be this bucket. And then we know how to kind of manage those resources. And then we have a small resource allocation to do what we're talking about. It's just to take new swings, try new shit.
I think that's exactly the form, especially for brands you should look at, is you only have so many hours, right? So it's really just that breakdown of like the high, medium, low lift. I've found, at least with my content, even the short and quick stuff, all my lift is like kind of the same. It basically takes me like kind of the same amount of energy or juice to do all the good content styles. But I think that's just where I'm at as a creator, because I haven't been able to, on short form at least, outsource a bunch. My YouTube as a whole process, but then short form, like I'm still doing the majority of it.
For people that are just starting out with minimal resources, definitely do that rubric, because I think that's, you look for low, medium lift, high impact.
Yeah, and also then don't feel the need to like, you don't have to post every day. You don't have to like, there's so many things that people are preaching at where it's like, these things help, but like consistency of what you can achieve over time is like, it's just a matrix of like, all right, if I can post every day versus if I can post twice a week, it's just like, all right, I might get to my goal in 6 months versus a year, but like, as long as you're headed towards a goal is all that's matter.
Yeah, I think a big thing with that as well too, we always have the conversation. Let me ask you that first, I guess. What do you think? Is it quality or quantity?
I think it's quality. And I think on TikTok, again, it's that barometer of like, there is some multiplier, but if you have to pick one, you pick quality, right? Like if you make one really impactful video, like you had Caleb on here, Caleb makes one YouTube video a month, basically. And they're super high quality and will get the results of that of if he made 4 shitty ones, right? And I think then you'd rather stand by the quality one you make. And so I think that like, if you have to choose one, it's that. But like in the real answer in today's age is like, I make a pretty good video every single day. And that is not, and I've done that when I had an executive job, and I'm doing that now and I have a million things going on. And it's not actually that hard. And I think that a lot of people, you have to limit yourself going one way or the other. But if you did have to, I'd pick quality.
Good to know. Yeah, I think a big thing in relation to that, a lot of people say, it was the same thing in Caleb's episode, was quantity, which then informs quality, and then obviously quality, then you want quantity and quality. I think a big thing for people out there listening, especially, we're really focused on creators, creatives, and then obviously entrepreneurs and operators. For the entrepreneurs and operators out there that are starting to do more content, I think a huge thing, and I've had this problem, is just not burning out and just making sure you're not overdoing it. Like,
agreed.
These long form right now, like, dude, I have a lot of shit going on right now where I'm like, these launch once every 2 weeks and I think they're high quality, and like, we're not upping that cadence until other thing comes off the plate.
Completely.
So don't get burnt out. I think consistency is what it all comes down to.
Especially if you're a founder. So one of the brands I'd love to call out around this is Percival. They're like a UK menswear brand where the founder's in the content. It's like one of every 10 videos. And like, that's a great cadence. Like, get someone involved, build that. There's the other concept too around, the founder has to be the person from the brand in the videos. That's like just not true at all. I don't really think it matters who it is, as long as they're interesting and somewhat charismatic, where it's like, all right, it could be your chief science officer. It could be literally the social media person, but they're like equipped. You could hire a creator, whatever it is. It's just having a voice to represent your brand, and it does not have to be the founder. And in many cases, like knowing some of these founders, it really shouldn't be, whether it's their personality or just the time value.
Do Do you think a brand can win on social without some sort of face tied to the brand?
Yeah, I think you can win on social in 1,000 different ways, but I do think it is for most brands that have done other stuff and are wondering why they're plateauing, that's the easiest way to take it to the next level.
So let's take that back. Forget brands that are scaling and potentially plateauing. Let's start from the start. What's your view? Is it one channel at a time or kind of be everywhere at once?
Yeah, so it's like test wide. But I think with a brand, with any new brands, like find one thing that allows your business to function. And you may have to test your way into that. But for instance, like you may find like, hey, my business is like started to grow to start on Facebook ads and organic didn't matter as much because I nailed Meta or vice versa. But like you need to be on the hunt for one channel. And then you begin to build other channels. Now, I don't think that doesn't mean you don't test wherever you go. Like when I'm talking to people about posting content, it's like if you made a short form video, you're doing yourself a disservice by not posting on literally every network you possibly can because you spent all the time making the asset. You should at least, and you look at the compounding effects. When people go, oh, I didn't post on YouTube Shorts. And you're like, yeah, well, maybe you would have gotten 600 views. Oh, but you're 100 videos in. So now that's 60,000 views or whatever that looks like. Like that compounding effect in terms of your brand halo, like is an actual thing. So I encourage people to go really wide in their distribution. But really, you're just on that hunt for like, what is the one thing that will scale my brand? And then if that one starts to work, you begin working on adding the next one in.
I'm going to tell you something. I have not said it. I guess I'm just going to put the juice on the camera right now. This is mind blowing, and I'm going to actually give the numbers and do a YouTube video on it. We were posting with Iconic one time a day on 3 channels, Monday to Friday. And we did these 45-day tranches, and we upped it from like once a day to twice a day. We upped it from 2 channels to 4 channels, and then we added 1 on the weekend. Then we added 2. And if anybody goes to Iconic right now, they'll see all the posts. Bro, in every 45-day window when we were incrementally doing it, especially when we went on wider channels, bro, we went on Google Analytics, GA4. We'd see the traffic coming from social. We'd then see the conversion rate. We'd then see the AOV. For everybody listening, hundreds of thousands of dollars just coming in from just posting more on more channels. Literally, bro.
Well, then there's the scale concept. So this is something I talk about. I work a lot with bigger brands. I'm trying to get them to wrap their head around it. Is like the scale concept is even bigger. There's I need to get started. If you talk about scale, people get overwhelmed. But then there's hey, if you actually have a budget, like if you're spending tens of millions of dollars on marketing every year, and you're like, you know what you can do with that from a volume scale? If you're like, hey, we have good ad concepts. Now we're multiplying this by language. We're multiplying it by the way people look. We're multiplying it by region. You're getting 10, 15, 20 creators like on your roster on TikTok. You're reposting that content. All of that's going into your performance funnel. Like you're in the scenario you're in where you're like, hey, this is going to smash. And people get overwhelmed. They're like, that sounds crazy. And you're like, no, it's just a math equation. This is just process. And it is the 100% for any brand of a decent size is the way to stay ahead of everybody right now.
Yeah, man. I hope for someone out there that has tens of millions of dollars, you should just give it to Oren and he can get way better dollar value. These brands are ridiculous. Like what you can do.
It's crazy. Even you look at shoot costs and stuff like that. So a lot of like my life ends up in shoots. Like I'll be, hey, okay, you're doing creative strategy for this shoot. You're doing like, how do we get the best assets out of this or that? And you look at the budgets on some of this versus what's possible. They're just like stuck in the past, right? In terms of like what's available with cameras and whatnot. And there's just alpha. I'm always just looking for like, what is that area of alpha? Especially if you're someone who feels like you're ahead. You're like, I'm always see things ahead of time. You're like, okay, I see this thing and I'm ahead of it. How do I then make money off it, or how do I inform people like how to do that? And it's just, right now that is like 100% in shoots where you're still paying crews and gear and scenarios that like you could be doing this setup that we have in here. You could spend $50,000 on it if you want to, and it'll look exactly the same. That's what a lot of brands will do if they want to execute it. And if you are one of the people that can do that at the lower level, it's like, all right, how do I maximize the in between of those dollars? Like where does that give me a ton of leverage as a brand? Does it give me a ton of leverage as an agency? And then where do you build it?
Yeah, people are blown away. For everybody listening, this started the first 6 or 7 episodes was 2 of us.
Yeah.
Now it's 3 of us. And when I give the names, when I come on the set, people are like, wait, it's 2 of you and you guys are bringing all of your own equipment. You could do so much for so little now. That's why I can never do like some of these agencies with big budgets. I'm like, you guys are just literally lighting money on fire. It's absolutely unbelievable.
And even you look at people, I've made all this content about like social shows, just the idea that you can create basically like a little mini TV show on social media. It's a really good brand strategy for brands trying to establish themselves. And the comments are always like, oh, if you have a budget, if you have a blank. I'm like, I've been on these shoots. Like it's not even FX3s. I used to say it's FX3s, it's FX30s. It's like, it's a $2,000 camera, like, and a lens. And literally it's like, if it's a 2-person, they're taking the camera on the tripod and then they're just moving it to the other corner. And there'll be like maybe a softbox or 2. And it's a 1 or 2 person shoot. I'm like, that is attainable for basically anybody who's not just starting from zero. Yeah.
You are a big consumption guy. You got these blocks. I'd love to know those 2 TV shows for brands. spin off a bunch. What are a bunch that are doing really well for people out there to listen?
Yeah, so basically there's a brand called Alexis Bitar who they're a jewelry brand, and they basically built this series around like socialite characters who like are in New York, and basically it's like a drama, and they just happen to be often wearing the gear of Alexis Bitar, but they have like celebrity guests. Like it got so popular with their audience that their audience was like, great, I can consume this 90-second drama multiple times a week. So that's one. Bape has another good one. Bape has an in-store show. Anyone in store should be doing something like this, where it's like, hey, people pick out of a fishbowl like a color, and they have 90 seconds to make a fit. There's a countdown timer like on top of it. And then they're running around, and it's influencers and somewhat well-known people, and they run around the store grabbing stuff, and then they show the fit at the end, and they have like a ranking scale, and they have little effects that come up. They'll pop the item up when it does it. So there's some production involved. But again, it's got a timer, it's got an objective, and that's where I talk about with brands is like, hey, how can you do in 90 seconds, how can you do Hot Ones or MTV Next or Cribs? Cribs is like the default format of I want to see your apartment, right? Like that is a known thing. I would just go back and look at all that vintage TV and be like, how do we do our brand version?
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to this young buck, the School of Hard Knocks. You know that?
Yeah.
Bro, that kid is killing it, bro.
Yeah.
And he's just, it's super simple.
It's repeating an existing format that works, and then look at how you use that for your brand or for you as a creator. That's why I encourage a lot of new creators who are coming at this now too, to be like, all right, like if you do feel like your thing is saturated, maybe or may not be, like what is your concept for it? Like how do you launch a show instead of launching just a social media presence? And a show doesn't mean you have a huge production, but a show can mean you're sitting at the same set every day, and that set's in your house, and you are doing things in a repeatable format that make people feel like they're tuning into HGTV or whatever.
I do think a very key thing you said there to draw out is repeatable format. Making sure, whether it be the time, the aesthetic, the branding, making sure when people see it, they know that it's you. That's another thing that we're working on right now. We're working on like the color scheme of everything.
You've done a good job with it, because even when I look at it, like even with the thumbnails, all these things that come together to like add up to that. And I think that's a huge thing for creators, because you look at all the biggest creators, they have a format where they're doing a thing, like the biggest TikTokers, like Nara Smith cooks something from scratch. Thor, that guy, he chops wood. And then they're doing it to talk about something else or engage a goal or like have something. You see them, you're like, oh, they're in the kitchen or they're in the forest or they're in wherever they are. They're doing the action and they're making content in and around that. And they have their outfits, like they'll always be kind of relatively looking the same. And like, there's a reason for that. It's because it works.
Question for you and then for everybody in the comments. Do you think we should have one branded, I call it the octagon, one place where we shoot all the time? Or do you like the diversity in some of our locations?
I think have it there. Well, on YouTube, it's one of those where like YouTube is like seasonal, I feel like. You have a set, run it until it's kind of getting dull, and then run the next one. But I'd say, yeah, for like 3 out of 4 of them, like don't be afraid to break that mold if you're in somewhere cool, but I think that helps make it. I don't know if I shared with you when we were sitting down before, but that Fashion Neurosis YouTube channel, where she's literally on like a therapy couch, and that's the entire vehicle. It's a normal podcast. It's the same as this, but because one person is on a couch and one person's in the chair, it has this completely different feel and dynamic. And I think that will lose its allure after like a year. It will play its course, just like any YouTuber wants to update their set. But like then you can think about how do we do the next version or the next version. I think that's a very good way to think about YouTube and short form.
You're a fashion creative director over here by season. We're planning our seasons.
But that's also how YouTubers think, right? Every YouTuber is like, oh, like I need to upgrade my set or I need to move my apartment. That's why you see these guys move and shit so much, right? Is you get all the content from moving and then you have like a new thing. Because again, I think it just, people want that. They want some level of familiarity and then it meets its peak.
That's why I have to give a shout out right now to Lighthouse. I'm a proud member of Lighthouse. It's in Venice. It's an amazing space for creators to work. I had seen your stuff before on the internet, obviously, but I saw you speak there and then we spoke and we started going back and forth. You know why I love that place, bro? I do content there. There's 60 places to shoot content there. It's endless, bro.
The environments. This is the first thing I thought when I walked in. Literally, I'm like, oh, there's like 30 places you can shoot video. And that's insane. Crucial. That's how I've built my house now. Like, thankfully, my wife is like equally as unhinged, but like, I have so many environments like in the home, and we converted our whole garage and there's this office space. And like we're putting a drop down full green screen like in the foyer. It's so good. But then once you like embrace that and you're like, all right, cool, this actually makes my life genuinely easier.
I think to tie a bow on this part, a huge thing for everybody to take out of this, thinking about top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel, these TV shows, guys, are great top of the funnel brand awareness, and you're selling, but you're not selling.
Exactly.
That's the whole entire thing.
And awareness, man, the top of funnel concept is so important. I was ranting about this on Twitter the other day because I'm dealing with it with like multiple projects right now. But like top of funnel is like, it doesn't matter. All that matters is the views. And because the way the algorithms work, if you see someone's content on Instagram and you like it, they show you more of it. So give them the ability to like something from you, whether you sell it, whether the brand's integrated, whatever it is. But then to achieve top of funnel content, most brands will be like, well, we just need to make our existing content about our products better. And you're like, guess what? Look at the top of funnel content that works. It's literally concepts. If you're like, oh, we're recreating Mean Girls or whatever, or it is skits, like, hey, we're doing something that is really funny, or it's a show, like a format like that, or it's just amazing visual execution, the 3D, or just some amazingly shot campaign that's everything hooked. There's not really any other ways
Ironically, that stuff at the end I think performs the least. But if you're trying to position yourself as...
And what's the hardest part? That's the easiest one to get brands to buy in on. Because basically, if you're like, oh, we're gonna launch a TV show, they're like, Jesus. Or if you're like, hey, we need to do conceptual. A lot of brands don't think that conceptual content works for them. I guarantee the conceptual content works for everybody. Like if you're trying to like, hey, we're gonna make a campaign that's gonna be themed around a thing and we're gonna go all in on it. And you'll see a L'Oreal group is doing that like with like everything. They're basically building these themes and these like campaigns, and then they're really running it. They're like pushing it through all of their influencers, through like, they're bringing it to the retailers. They're like, how do we get this as wide as we can? I think because they saw so much success with CeraVe doing stuff like that. And then if you tell them to be like, hey, we're going to do skits, they're like, well, humor isn't it, or this isn't a lifestyle brand. So you like hear these arguments, and it's funny, every brand likes to think that they're unique. I'm like, no, this is the same exact argument set every single brand has around this. So you end up with, okay, the beautiful content is what we can do. And to your point, it works the least, but at least you can get people to sign off.
Yeah, I mean, a great example of that for people that have not watched the episode with Ryan Bartlett from True Classic, their whole identity is all about slapstick comedy, and that's their top of the funnel.
As it should be. And that's also like, that is a brand aimed at bros.
Yeah.
What are bros going to share in the group chat? That's like, should be the number one goal of what a company like that looks like. And guess what? You probably have the best chance with slapstick comedy.
I should take my own advice with Iconic probably 6-7 years ago when Trevor Wallace wasn't Trevor Wallace. We branded a character called Dennis Gallagher, and he was like a loser, and he revived his life through our motivational art. Got hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube, and it's smashed.
It's amazing.
I should probably take my own advice on this one here, guys.
Yeah.
I want to wrap up a bit on the content side. What do you think is the biggest myth you still hear about content?
Not that it's saturated. I just think you're going to hear everything is saturated for years and years and years. Or the other biggest myth, probably the biggest one, is like, oh, it's the algorithm, or Instagram isn't giving me reach or whatever. You hear this complaint like all the time, like, oh, I have this following. And it really is, it comes down to like better content. I've looked at this, I go through peaks and waves like anyone else. And I'll look at my week and be like, oh, I only got 30, 50,000 views in these videos. I normally get 100, 200. And I look at it, I'm like, genuinely, this is because the content's not good. And every single time I come out of that and try something new, every single time, and I've probably gone through that peak and valley at least a dozen times now, I came out the other side. I made better stuff and I came out the other side. And so I think people get so dejected when you're just like, guess what? Everyone on the internet is improving at what they create every day. I'm such a better creator than I was 6 months ago or even a year ago. So if you're expecting the same thing to work, it's not. You have to be leveling up at the same time. Then people get stressed by that. And it's like, well, what else? To strive for fucking greatness.
I think a big thing in relation to that too is understanding who your ICP is, ideal persona. And sometimes it's not about views. Like for us, like when we're doing very granular, value-driven business stuff, it sometimes doesn't hit. But I do know there's a part of my ICP, people that really care about it, more elevated business people, they're watching that and they're getting a ton of value. So don't be blinded by the views.
I think about that all the time because I have a rule that if I don't have a flop every week, I'm not experimenting enough. But also the thing is my flops, quote unquote, like my videos with the least views are often designed for that, but they are idea-based videos, this marketing idea thing. Like I had one about how like HR needs to deal with creators was what I did the other week. And I had one a while back that was about like how trade shows could not suck and like conferences. And even another one about quiz brands like Il Maquillage and stuff that are all like AI quiz. And so those are videos that didn't do well. And those are the 3 videos I can identify that have brought me like serious inquiries from like absolutely major people. Like, because that's the ones who those resonate with. Like that quiz brand video has the least amount of views. It was a sponsored video. And it's still got like CEOs of multiple beauty companies being like, wow, like I need to think about this. Like, is this really the tool they used to build this? Like in the DMs, and you're just like, that was an action point for them while not having the views. And I'm just like, all that really matters is the results. Are you getting where you want? If views were the only focus, I would just be making consumer content. Guess what? Consumer content does not get me brand deals. And so marketing content does. And I think it's really worth thinking about that because you'll get in your head around views.
It's so crazy. It's the same thing from a product perspective. Like the more elevated and from a taste perspective, the better art, I think in my mind, actually does not sell well.
Because people don't necessarily have taste, nor do they want it. And also a lot of purchases are like comfort purchases versus tasteful purchases, right? And I think that's a huge thing in psychology that we don't talk enough about.
If you had to bet on one platform in 2025 to build a content moat, what's the best choice?
I still think it's YouTube just because YouTube's hard. And so if you want to actually do something and you're willing to learn thumbnails and packaging, like you've come out the gate and crushed it. That's rare.
You know, we sucked the first 4 videos.
But still,
guys, the first 4 videos, just ignore the first like 5 or 6 minutes, but give it a chance. I'm telling you, give it a chance.
Oh no, the first 4 videos, like, most people suck for like 100. Like that's still coming out the gate and killing it. So I just feel like that's the number one platform. Yeah.
And I don't want to give everybody a false sense here. I don't even know if you know this. I had someone follow me around for 24 hours a day for 18 months. We had a web series. We got kicked off YouTube. That was in 16 or 17. And then we had a podcast with 15, 20 episodes.
You've been through the ringer.
I've been through it. I did suck when I restarted doing this again. But yeah, for everybody out there listening, like we didn't give a fair shake to, let's say Oliver from Mad Rabbit, Manny from Slate. They're good episodes.
Yeah. But now you know what you're doing, but you get better all the time. But I do think that is the biggest moat because it's hard. You can't publish as much. And so you kind of only have one shot, maybe 2 shots a week to start. And people get, they're like, oh, I get these instant dopamine on short form video. And you don't get that on YouTube, but it's still the moat. I look at it like, I'm really the only marketing creator. Like, there's like, what's his name? The Future is personal brand. Kane is like social media. Caleb's doing some stuff in the kind of brand world. But like, when I look at it on a wide basis to showing up in search that makes a lot of videos, I'm kind of it in marketing, which is just such a crazy concept to look at. When you look at the size of these niches and then how little content there is created on it, and then how much kids are willing to consume. Like my audience on here is like 20 to 27. And that's just such a miracle audience that is not going to watch my Unk videos on TikTok, you know?
So you have a different audience, a younger audience on
YouTube. Audience on YouTube than I do on TikTok and Instagram. And also they're watching on TV. That's the other thing I've seen. People will DM me, like me on their TV, like whenever I do Sunday episodes. And so like I'll get a bunch of those DMs and I'm like, oh man, I'm really on like the thing in your, like you're eating lunch. This is a common, like you're eating lunch, you're doing whatever, and you're watching TV and I'm on the TV. That's a very different consumption experience.
From a positioning perspective, I do think one of our moats is production value, and I am seeing more and more. Yeah. Like, we don't get a crazy amount of audio listens. I think that our viewer appreciates the aesthetic that we put on. Yeah, and all the tags are all on,
well, also,
on
I think that's what they want. People want, the way I look at this now is I really think about consumption habits. Target consumption habits is the most underrated marketing concept that people don't think about. But the watching a YouTube video at lunch or watching a YouTube video at night or having YouTube as an app on the TV is the most underrated consumption look. Because what do people want for that? Like even when I look at my top YouTube videos, they're art direction videos. I can talk about art direction in a nuanced way that's hard for like a newer creator, so I have a moat there. But also really it's just a visual showcase of the brand. I'm giving you 20 minutes of like Stussy's greatest hits of the content they've made. And so you get to watch this visual thing. You have a guy who's entertaining and like valuable talking to you. You feel like you're learning something, but you're consuming that like an episode. And when I look at like why content, like some of the content that does really well, like the Represent guys or Marcus from Minted, that is lunchtime guy consumption content. You're like, I'm just gonna watch these cool guys who I aspire to be like, live their lives for 20 minutes. And I think that is just a wonderful consumption thing that like people should understand how girls consume versus guys consume and older versus younger, but the younger guys are doing that on YouTube.
Do you think that day in the life kind of behind the scenes content is still doing well?
No, I don't. I think it's well, especially from the start now. I think building in public for anything, especially if you're like a fashion brand or some shit, is like actually a negative signaler. Like only people that are doing it are whack. Especially if you're established and you've been doing it for a minute, great. But like if you're new, you're doing that, like it's not a look. If you're doing a traditional business, I still think it's great. The people that are popping off now is like, I started a coffee shop. I'm opening a burger joint. And so it's kind of like almost like a HGTV plus business. Like that's working really well, but it's traditional businesses. But I think if you're doing that with any like CPG or fashion, like you're kind of behind the curve. And then for the people that are doing it, like it's like episodic, like who already have big established brands, that's good. But you'll notice they're kind of doing other things. Like really, like the Represent content is really like fitness motivational content, right? And that's a massive niche. And it's, to a lot of extent, that's the same thing with the Minted content. And that's an amazing thing, but it's not really a day in the life. Really, it's like getting into the soul of what their customer wants to see.
Makes a lot of sense. And I want to further validate, like you literally have little to no competitors, especially in that first bucket that you talked about from an art direction perspective. Like nobody is doing that. For people out there, I mean, just the common theme in life, the harder it is, the less people do it, the less competition. And anybody that does YouTube, they just get, so they don't see the views to start.
Well, the art direction one's interesting is the reason they don't is like anyone who's a good art director is inherently tasteful. And so for them to make that content to have it perform, it has to be somewhat cringe. And I don't care about getting art direction work. I'm an entrepreneur, I have other stuff going on, but it's a passion, so I love to talk about it. So I don't care about if it's like cringe in the eyes of that community, but the people in that community will never execute it. And so it's a moat. And then anyone that's trying to and doesn't know what they're doing is going to kind of flail. And there is that example probably in every type of business or every type of thing. But most good people mix, they just don't package it right. It's not interesting. It's not visual. You have all this ultra value content. People are always like, oh, this video of someone driving a truck got 700,000 views, but this entrepreneur sharing his deepest secrets got like 600. And it's like, yeah, because it's not presented in a compelling fashion. People don't feel like they want to sit down and have that conversation. Like value alone on YouTube pales in comparison to value in entertainment.
As far as that goes too, we can talk for probably 10 hours and I'm probably going to bring on someone to go super deep on the YouTube side. But for people that are new on YouTube, you should be spending 50% plus of your time on pre-packaging. And by pre-packaging, guys, idea, title, thumbnail, beginning of the video.
And if you don't know design, like get a designer to break down why thumbnails are good or bad. Because I'll see people that will copy it, but then like faces aren't brightened or like they don't understand type. I'm like, you have to have someone with a design background, you know?
The less elements, the better on thumbnail. Yeah. We'll leave it at that.
Well, it's true, unless you're a female audience, because you'll notice the female thumbnail that crushes is the ones with like all the different stuff in the background. It's all like busy with like the things calling them out. Like you look at Grace Beverley's thumbnails or some of the pop culture. And so again, it's just like, what does your audience consume? Make those thumbnails, you know?
I stand corrected because I had no idea that would work. And I don't know.
But yours is like exactly like the simple thumbnail. If you're doing like male business driven content, 1000% the fucking way to go, right?
Yeah, I mean, even for us, like I was looking after the fact, like one of our thumbnails has very big, bold lettering on the hat. And it's just one more thing that draws attention away from what the actual thumbnail is. I wish we would take that one off, which we probably will.
Are you A/B testing thumbnails at all?
Crazy A/B testing. I want to talk, wrap up a little bit on the positioning side, because a lot of the content has to go with the positioning. What would you say is the most brilliantly positioned brand in the marketplace?
I think Grun's is a really brilliantly positioned brand. Because they basically, I love position against. So there's different types of positioning. Position against is basically where you're like, there's an existing big incumbent and we are an alternative. And our entire identity is wrapped up in being an alternative to this big, massive thing. And Grun's is an excellent example of this, where like AG1 is a big honking business that has marketed its way to success. And they're like, hey, guess what? The user experience still sucks. We're just going to be like, we have this huge TAM. We just have a superior user experience that these guys will probably never copy. Or if they do, it'll be too late. And we're just going to hammer that. And so I've loved the way that they position that. And then they were like, you know what? We're also going to widen the TAM. We're like, you know what? They suck at positioning. Kids will never consume AG1. So we are going to say, we are going to be we're going to be able to get the kids, and we can get that as an entry point. So even if you're an adult and you don't use AG1 or you do, we're going to get your kid, and then we're going to upgrade to you. Why shouldn't you ingest your greens that way? So I feel like they've done just a absolutely incredible job with that. David's another one where like their value prop was unassailable. They were like, we are going to, on metrics, like you look at their trucks, they run trucks in New York City. It's just the calories, grams of protein. They're like, you will never beat our metrics. That's unassailable. And then we are going to present ourselves as a work of art, the whole David theme to be around that. Those are two brands that are both new, that are just the most excellent positioning I've seen.
For context, guys, it's David Protein. They actually just launched Cod.
Yeah.
And the same
as an
thing.
Initiative, but yeah.
The same exact thing, though. It's just all about how many calories it's
Well, you notice they hired a creative director. This woman's super talented. She did like the locker scene with the Cod unveil. And you look at like that brand going from launch with a value proposition, hammer TikTok shop. TikTok shop was a huge part of their adoption strategy. Then like widespread distribution. And then, okay, now we actually hired a creative director and we're doing like fun campaigns to go along with like launching product as marketing, which is what they did like with the Cod. The level of sophistication and simplicity inside that operation is legendary.
Yeah, from kind of like a counterculture, us against them mentality. Another good example is probably Poppy that went against Pepsi and Coke.
That whole category, all I pop and Poppy is just again, positioned against with a product of that nature. Now those are just huge. CPG, to succeed, you have to be taking a massive swing like that. If you're not taking a massive swing in CPG, the volume isn't there to ever make you any real money. And then in other companies, another good position that I actually love to talk about, I have never talked about in the pod, is Satoshi Nakamoto in fashion, where it's like they just took a popular pop culture term that people are obsessed with and then turned it into a ultra expensive fashion brand. And the only reason that brand succeeds is because of the brand name. And if they had a different name, it would just not be where it is. And it's just a genius bit of like, I recognize this thing going on in society. It's a Japanese brand, so we're going to use this inherent credibility that associates with it, and we're going to execute at the highest, most luxury level. And it was a kind of a masterclass in what a name can do for a company.
I think from a positioning perspective, something that a lot of people do is they play the price game. And I think if you're a new company, if you don't have economies of scale, it's a very dangerous game. And I feel like a lot of people, especially in the health and wellness space, they're getting to this super saturated space. You need to really differentiate yourself through some sort of unique positioning, like stuff that you've talked about.
Yeah, well, I think I talk about this. Actually, I haven't released it yet, but I'm doing a video about where it's like we had little treat culture. People used to spend their extra money, be like, I'm going to get an Air One smoothie. I'm going to get this fancy snack. People would basically be buying dopamine. It was a generational thing. So that's why we saw these cool new snack and beverage brands. And then it's like the little luxury culture where it's like, yeah, I'm going to buy a Jolie shower head and it's $400 versus $100. And now you see that across everything. Like I got a toolkit for my son the other week from this brand called Tinker. And it's like, they just made like a very aesthetic, also very user-friendly toolkit. All the handles and stuff are kind of like OXO grips. So my son can like grab a hammer or grab a nail. Same thing with an old person. And I want it just because it looks good. It's not like a big DeWalt set or whatever. I can slide it in somewhere and I have like an aesthetic house. And you're like, cool. They basically just upcharge the ability to take an existing thing, add kind of relatively minor innovation, but like that is a market. And so I do think that if you are going to like go a premium positioning with a premium look at a slightly higher price is such a better move than trying to just undercut someone by 10% in the market. Like that just isn't a winning strategy.
And you can always go down on price. It's tough to go up.
Amen.
Always can go downstream. We could literally go probably 20 hours on content. We're going to dive into influencer marketing.
Pop this jacket off real quick.
Yeah, pop that jacket. All right, cool. So let's hop into influencer marketing. When you hear influencer marketing in 2025, what comes to mind?
Like always on creators and then like creators on staff at companies. By always on, I mean like, hey, you have creators on staff. They're just making content for you in these longer term relationships. But yeah, I mean, this is like the era of influencer marketing.
I know that you have working with Gel Blaster in the past, and then obviously you work with all of these beauty brands. I want you to give context for the listeners, and I'll be able to layer on top with Iconic. How much free stuff are these big brands sending out?
So much, right? As much as you can, literally as much as you can find addresses for people that are relevant, right? Because like, look, here's there's these metrics called, a metric called EMV, which is like earned media value, which is basically value you get from like people just posting your content without spending money or pay behind it. And you look at in some of these niches, like how much content's just being made casually. And you're like, all right, cool, I can get this 100,000 view video. But the compounding effects of all of these smaller videos and all these things like really move a brand forward, especially when you're at retail. Like that was the biggest thing about working at Gel Blasters. Like we were in Costco, we were in Walmart, we were in Target, we were in all the hardware stores. So you need to push just volume awareness. The only goal is volume awareness. You can't track or attribute anything at that scale because there's so many locations where you can buy it. So it's just has to be a cultural like awareness level. And so the idea is like get these in as many people's hands as possible so that they see them. And if you see people having fun with it, whether that's on the internet or that's in person, for the cost of what that takes and someone's buying into the ecosystem, that had like a huge value. But yeah, I think this is, it's scaling it up as high as it can go. And then also like, how do you want to find the people that you pay? Would you rather have it be people that support your brand organically, or like you started in some relationship and then you pay them because the content was successful? Or you just want to hunt for like random people on the internet that you want to pay max dollar for?
You said something in an interview that really resonated with me, and it was a strategy that I formerly did at scale, and I stopped doing it because I listened to the numbers guys. We have probably sent out, it's probably at about 8,000 canvases. And keep in mind, canvases are significantly more money than beauty. A pair of socks or beauty. No attribution. All I did was just look at the true cost of goods, and I would just bake that into a line item on my marketing budget. And people have to look at it as A, they're getting content, B, they're getting distribution, C, they're getting social proofing, D, per what you said, there's no better way to see if they're a good creator to work with on a bigger scale than just give them free stuff and just see what happens.
Yeah, the other one, multiple brands I've worked with prior to this beauty era we're doing was like, basically was the buy it store. They'd be like, hey, we're going to recruit 100, 200 creators that, like for every campaign or every month or whatever, we're going to gift card them to wherever we want to boost sales, Target, Sprouts, whatever. Ooh. So then you get the purchase, sort of volume, and you get the posts that come from it. And then some of the content would be like at the location. That's another strategy that's like savvy. But again, you're baking it in the marketing budget. You're like, this is how, everyone's like, how do you support retail? How do you attribute it? Hey, like attribution is a extremely hard thing to quantify, but it becomes like significantly easier when you're looking at like overall lift and you're doing these like campaigns that are like at a high level. But a lot of it's common sense too. Like how do you get multiple assets for a lower cost, and then how do you compare that to traditional media? And then how do you know what doesn't work? Like we've run this magazine ad. If we cut it off for 3 weeks, does anything change? There's just so much of these budgets I feel like you can move to some of this, where the numbers are amazing. The numbers of giving stuff away, of like DMing relationships, giving stuff away and then graduating that, or the numbers of like in-store purchase, gift card stuff is like actually the economics are kind of amazing compared to any like Meta, TikTok, Spark ad stuff, like any other type of advertising. And I think it's just getting the conversation between executives is just complicated because a lot of people in charge of these budgets don't understand modern media.
There's so many different ways that you can use it as a weapon as well too. I've talked about it in the past is if you're a brand and you have a big following, you could use that as leverage against the influencers that you're seeding product to, i.e. repost it on story, repost it on feed, do a co-branded post and really sell them on the distribution that you're going to give them. Another thing that I think people sorely underestimate is the fact that you just need to be looking at just your true cost of goods and just say, hey, this cost me $10 and I'm going to spend
X amount
per month.
But also if you wanted to get super quantifiable with it, just start with TikTok Shop. Start with TikTok Shop affiliate. Be like, we are going to get and send to as many people that create videos on affiliate, and we're going to be on shop, and we are going to track it. And then you actually get a very numbers driven version of this. And a lot of brands have a lot of opportunity to scale. So like that's number one, like start there attributable and then build it to other networks. And then B, the thing that I've gotten brought in to work on almost the most when I was doing a lot of packaging content was packaging for influencer boxes. Because I'm like, hey, how do you want to guarantee post rate? People will send out 1,000 packages, they'll get 45 posts and get discouraged. And you're like, well, what did you send them? And we just put this in a random box with whatever. And it's like, okay, cool. Say that there was a $2 cost package on that looked viral. Like I always looked at K-beauty for this, like Korean beauty, because they have all these crazy PR packs because of how big their influencer culture is. Like there was one, I think it was like a Maybelline one that was like sticks of dynamite and you like pull the things out of it. Like they're so intricate. One of them was like a computer with a floppy disk, but like you look at the cost to actually get those made in China, you do it $1,000, $2,000, it's dollars, not tens of dollars. But even if you're doing tens of dollars and you're sending 100 kits and you want to have max open rate, it's like, all right, I sent 100 mailers, I want to get 60 posts. The quality of the way that mailer looks and the concept behind that, and does that tie into your other campaign? Then can you do a giveaway based on that? That's banging content. Like it becomes a campaign strategy in itself that you can engineer into success.
Guys, that's why we do this podcast. I think that's just so valuable and people don't even think about that. I've seen a significantly different, I love it how you're looking at like it's a D2C and open rate. From a post rate perspective, if you do a handwritten note and customize it to that person, they feel they have to post it.
Wait, when I get that, I get this all the time where someone's like, thank you so much, this content's meant blank and white. I'm like, and it makes you smile, you think differently, but all of it's about that. Yeah, that relationship. Like, did it make you smile? Did it make your kid smile? If my kid loves the thing that comes in the mail, it's a wrap, Yeah, it's coming on content.
You mentioned TikTok Shop. I am not on TikTok Shop, just for whatever reason, it has not worked for us as a brand. Attribution is very hard on the influencer side. Tell us more just about your experience with TikTok Shop.
TikTok Shop is a combination of it's like a gift and a curse, right? So for instance, when we were working on it on Gel Blaster, we would get kicked off constantly because it was a blaster product, right? So we just had this like on and off thing. But then I have so many people in my life that like live and breathe TikTok Shop. What people don't understand about that is back to that scale conversation is that when you look at a good brand on there, you look at brands that are really crushing it on there, Tarte, a few of these others, they are getting so many organic posts from TikTok Shop, like as an added benefit. So even take away the economics, like a brand like that is getting 3,000 to 5,000 posts a month, or they have more than that. They're doing 3,000 to 5,000 active affiliates. That means active people on TikTok that post their product every month. You can look at places like Kalo Data and like hunt this down. The data will be okay.
I want you to go very granular and give people as much context as possible. Is everything done through the platform? Are they paid through the platform?
Yeah, all right, so let me break this down. So if you are a brand, you want to hunt down what's called affiliates. Affiliates are creators that post links on TikTok Shop to products. So they'll make a video about LaCroix, they will link LaCroix inside the video, then they get a commission on that. There's different structures for it. And a lot of creators make a lot of money doing this. Now, what you want to do as a brand is you want to hunt down those creators and get them to join your program and promote your product. There's two kind of ways to do this within TikTok's backend. So the first way you have is basically you can create an always open program. So basically you can recruit affiliates and they can just join, or anyone who finds it can join. They can get sent product, and if they meet certain parameters, and they can make it for your brand. The other one
embedded in TikTok Shop, or is it
embedded in TikTok Shop? It's just open. If they are in a affiliate, they can go see that. And if you want to be an affiliate now, I think you need 5,000 followers. It used to be lower, and then you can go join that program. And there's places like Creators Corner that train people to do that are amazing. And then you have the level like above that, which is if you want to get actual good creators, they're not just going to go join your open program or necessarily even respond to a DM. You have to go hunt them down and be like, hey, I know you make good content for these other people. I want you to make content for us. And you're probably going to pay them. You might pay them a retainer. You might give them some super high percentage. And then TikTok allows you to create basically programs where you add people manually at higher percentage rates. And so you kind of have these two things. You want to recruit people into that. But then once you're in there and it's working and people see volume and they see you can make money and sell on it, you begin to do more and more of it. And so there's a bunch of different like agencies and services, or you can do it yourself. I forget some other software. All the software names are really weird. So it's like hard to remember the top of your head. There's another good like tracking, hunting down auto DM software that works for this. But you just basically want to scale that as high as you can, as long as you're getting the economics. But you know you have the economics, because if you're making sales and your commission is 20, 25%, TikTok takes a very small amount. It's not like a big distributor. And you've built in your margin and like your fulfillment costs. If you're selling anything with a decent AOV, $30, $50 plus, you probably have some margin there. Then your goal is just as much scale as you can. But at the same time, you're getting all these posts, these thousands of posts, which are generating likely millions of views. And so you have all that EMV as well, which trickles over into Amazon purchases, retail purchases, your website. It's just brand awareness and value. So not only do you have this trackable, scalable marketing by seeding influencers, you have this huge lift effect that comes from it. And I just think it's one of the most underrated tools like possible for scaling any brand that sells a product where the economics of shipping and logistics allow you to actually do it.
And you can control within this platform, if you want it from an attribution perspective, like they could get just on that purchase.
Oh, it's just on that. That's all it is. So literally, if they click the link from that video and bought it, that's when you get your attribution.
So the affiliates don't get LTV if they come back and buy more?
Doesn't matter. But it doesn't matter because the affiliates make a lot of money. Because these videos that do well, look, it's all shots on goal. You go to these affiliate pages, they'll be posting 5, 10 videos in a day. One every 4 days pops off. But if it drives 100K in sales or a 20K commission, Like one I like to look at, there was also a Maybelline, sorry for my bros, I'm deep in beauty. There was a Maybelline video by Jeffree Star, don't Google Jeffree Star, and where it went ultra viral. It's like a reaction video for him for a product. And he drove, it was like 500 or 600K worth of sales because of how ultra viral that video went. You look at the chart of their top affiliates, there's a lot of affiliates that drove 20K, 50K in sales. They're getting that 20% commission, then they're making 10K in a month. It's amazing. And then you have Jeffree Star, who just like probably made 6 figures like off a single post. And you see like, oh, this is the ability you have. It's all about shots on goal, right? You didn't know he was going to go viral versus anyone else was going to go viral, or that video type or this video type. You can't necessarily pick it. You have less control. That's why brands don't like it. But then you have this massive potential of what can happen to your product. And I think it's untapped in the way that Amazon was untapped maybe a few years ago before they started whipping fees and everyone was on it. Now, like we have that same alpha on TikTok Shop.
Guys, if you have not watched the episode with Kent, 2024, biggest TikTok shop in the world, Neurogum, great episode.
Yeah, and I'm just obsessed with it. I work on it. I make creative for it. I do briefs for it. I'm not like running some big brand on it, but I have many friends that are. And so I just love it because I just want as many people as possible to take advantage of that like scenario. It's just an amazing like thing to exist. And I look at it every day and wonder why like every project I'm on, how can I convince them to do more?
What's so crazy is I would imagine there is definitely somebody that's watching this video right now that has influence, may or may not be on TikTok, if they are on TikTok even more, and they're not even selling stuff on TikTok Shop and they're integrated into their videos. It's free money. You should be doing it.
Yeah, exactly. If you're making it about it. That's the other thing I thought was like, if you're running influencers or seeding and then they've been posting free stuff and they're not on a TikTok Shop, there's a whole like cottage industry of management there dedicated to onboarding those people on the TikTok Shop and then having them link the product and being like, hey, guess what? You're already posting this to get 600,000 views. Like, don't you like make money at the same time? And that's where it makes it useful to be like, hey, we're doing retainers or we're doing whatever. But like that is a whole thing. If you're seeding and you're not on Shop, you're like, this is free money for them and for you. Just connect the dots. But there's always worries about like, again, control. What does this mean for our retail environment? People will always find a reason to not do the hot new thing at the time when they're supposed to, and they'll talk themselves out of money.
So you have 10K to spend on an influencer budget. What do you do?
I think I would try to be like doing 5 people that are a 1K and then doing 2 posts each with them and like kind of Hunger Gamesing it, at least internally, to be like, which of these people can I develop a long-term thing with a little bit cheaper? But I think the biggest alpha and influencer right now is going into like the emerging, where it's like, hey, cool, you're now broken. They just broke 100K or whatever it looks like. They haven't gotten a bunch of brand deals yet, but they've done 1 or 2. And they kind of make content that gets the same views or is just as good as these big influencers. Like, now that's the biggest alpha, but it's the hardest to find because people really don't want to hunt for them. These agencies necessarily don't want to hunt for them. So they're not like cutting down the edge. It's not as nimble, but I think you have the biggest upside. So I would look for that. But again, the multiple posting I think is crucial. You do 1 post with an influencer, you really don't know what's going to come out the other end. My biggest recommendation on that is always like, can you redo their biggest piece of content like with them, with your brand integrated? So a good example is Reformation, the dress company. They took all these big creators and they said, hey, go remake your best video ever, but you're wearing Reformation. And that was the campaign. And that's a genius thing for them to get placement. They have a little bit of different goals. But it's the same thing I did. I did like a red flag wallets video. And I had a wallet video be like, hey, can you just do this again? And then just like put us like in like a prominent thing and like mark it as sponsored. Like there's stuff like that makes a lot of sense for the brand. So that's how I would look at it, is like spread your shots out, do multiple posts with each of them, remake some of their best content versus go, let me get the biggest influencer I can for 10. Because if you do 1 shot like that, you just don't know where it's going to go. You need time to figure out like where it hits.
Makes a lot of sense. Looking at it from like a macro perspective, and obviously there's different outliers, AKA you, someone with a bigger following. What's that sweet spot where you think you get the most value on a per follower perspective? Is it at 10,000? Is it at 50,000, 200,000?
Well, it's interesting. What I've noticed in my niche is like the budgets don't go up as you continue to grow. Basically, you get to the top. Like if you are on a couple 100K, let's say 300-400K combined between Instagram and TikTok in the like marketing niche, like I'm not getting any more money at 1 million followers than I was at that 400. Like this capped out. The brands just aren't going to spend more. And also you're not getting necessarily that many more views up there. Like it's like the way that virality works. And so I think it's really like finding people that are again getting to that spot. So in marketing, I think it's really like you just got over 100K or like who's kind of hot right now. Like for instance, like I'm on a streak these last like 2 months. This is a great time to get me. The previous 2 months before that, I was obviously like my content was like figuring it out. But even then it's hard to predict it with timing and stuff like that. It's kind of I know it's a hard answer. It really varies by niche. But it comes down to really consuming, like what does your audience consume? Like having that algorithm, are these people showing up a lot and just being online?
I would say for me, it's a fast race to get to 10,000 followers. I think that you have way more legitimacy just having 10,000 plus. And then for me, what I've found, and my girl who's done agency, big clients and spread it across 50 girls at once, she's getting more value dollar for dollar Smaller.
Yeah. I think that's again, I look at it like there's a certain amount of, it's different when you're in consumer good. For like B2B stuff, it's like if you don't have really 100K, I feel like the credibility isn't there. Where it's like, okay, this person in promoting that, I feel like there's like more risk necessarily, unless they have a really tuned in audience. And you'll see it too, like the videos just aren't as good. Now, if you want to nurture that relationship to then have a bigger thing, that's really where it's at. Like I remember like Particle is one of my first sponsors. I still do a video with them like almost every month. My rate is like not significantly higher than it was because they've just stuck with it for that long. And so they've gotten a huge upside by being early. And I think there's a lot to be said for that if you're looking at a longer term influencer plan.
So let's just say for B2B guys, you probably have to be 100,000 plus for credibility. And then B2C, I would say.
Yeah, 10. Yeah.
Maybe even lower, but I think 10.
And it really depends on the quality of the content. Like I look at, there's people making good videos that have less than that. And it's just where you want to catch them in their arc. And also, are you going to spread this across a few and try to get some hits and understand that's how it works? Or are you looking for sure things? And you're always going to feel like a sure thing is the bigger creator, whether that's right or not.
A huge thing that I think is going to make its way back, and I can make some analogies back to LA, Fairfax, 2016, 2017 with companies like Pink Dolphin. Going back to, I call them COIs back in my finance days, Center of Influence. These people that have, let's just call them seating lists basically, that have these owned seating lists where they have access to a narrow persona. And at any point in time, they can hit 10 people, 20 people, 50 people, 100 people. Those people are going to have a lot of value for anybody that is going after TikTok shops.
I used to coach this for people that were on teams and stuff. And I was like, hey, I know you're about to do a bunch of manual research, a bunch of manual outreach, and it's going to absolutely suck. And it's going to turn you into the most valuable person whenever you go to your next job. And I'm not going to want to lose you, but like that's going to be true because you're going to walk in there with that Rolodex. That's the same conversation I had about the stuff. I have all the same thing. Every influencer's ever posted, any brand I've worked with, like is in a list. And I know what that list is. It's parsable by category. It's part of that thing that you organize. And guess what? Whenever I go anywhere, I know here's the hitters. And then the bigger you get that, the more valuable you are. So I could not agree more. And that's why it's like, everyone doesn't want to work these manual jobs or do whatever anymore. But like, you work in influencer outreach for a year or two and you actually track who had results or not. And then you go walk into like a leveraged conversation to have one of those jobs. Like you're basically working your way from a 90K a year job to a 200K a year job off a list.
And it creates insane amount of additive value and leverage on collaboration. I can give you two examples. One with Iconic, with Legends, the athletic apparel. Yeah. Like, do you know how easy that was for me? Just like guys that work out in LA. People don't even know this. David Protein.
Yeah.
I sent out to 40 people right out the gate because that was right in my wheelhouse. And it was a win-win for me too. It was
why not?
Peter Hall, RX Bar. Yeah. I like the product, win-win for all. But same thing. I have that organized by 3 or 4 big pockets and being able to at any moment deploy that by vertical or another big one too is by geography.
Yeah.
Like saying like,
especially with retail.
Yeah. Saying like, hey, I already know right now that if I wanted to blow up a brand in Boston, Miami, New York, Scottsdale,
blow up
Austin,
the pop-up, the launch event, the whatever, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. I want to tie a bow on the influencer side. What's the biggest waste of money you've seen in influencer marketing?
Man, there's some of these agencies, I'm not going to call some of them out specifically, but man, I walked into a scenario where brands are spending millions on influencer, paying top dollar for all these people for bad posts with like weird briefs without the right CTAs. Like their big agencies will go blow a bag. They will go be like, hey, this is 75,000, this is 12,000, like, and then you'll see the difference with them in small agencies. An agency I always like to call out that I loved working with is agency Cavell, Kvell, where I worked with them. I was as a creator, and I've worked with them. I've hired them after that because I was like, man, the briefs had so much attention to detail. The feedback was actually so good. Everything was organized in a way that it was just relentless. And I was like, that difference between like, oh, just pay $75,000 to the biggest person you can, which is like what some of these big agencies do, actually was like offensive to me seeing what some of those are. So it's really just like, are they tactically in the weeds, like helping make great videos? And one of the call outs to that, one of the things I appreciated most about the Cavell stuff is I did some stuff at Gel Blaster with them. We did these videos that went viral on YouTube Shorts with a creator, smaller creator to the point of your upside. And they were video game recreation videos with Gel Blasters. They were recreating like kill shots basically. And the guy would do like dramatic falls or whatever, like tricks. And they, in their feedback, I remember in the brief, they were like, hey, can you put the video game sound effects and then can you put the little targets like on the video? And here's the PNGs for the overlays. And then when they added that, it was one of those things like I'd never thought of and just looked amazing and just added so much to the production of this. And like, I think helped ensure that video go from a couple 100K to like a couple million. And it's just like when you need people that are in the weeds, and it really comes down to your rep and the experience they have and how they treat influencer.
A little co-creative direction by an agency. That's pretty rare.
I'll take it. When they were, look, and this was the thing, they were in all these briefs, like doing that level of stuff. And it was like a 70 influencer campaign, right? But like, that's the ones like, you can just tell they're like obsessed with success.
You called it out, and it's just so embedded in my world. And my business partner, Jeff Cole on Instagram for Iconic, he's one of the most talented digital designers in the world. I've become accustomed to it. This guy is a master at creative briefs. What are the most important elements of a creative brief?
References. So it's like, what are you actually showing people to create? And then thinking through how that creator is making it their own. So you can make an amazing brief, but if you then go to a creator and here's this brief and it's not like the stuff that they do or doesn't incorporate their best qualities, I feel like there's a personalization level to a lot of briefs. And then the ability to just say, if you want to say no to the brief, okay, just send us something back that you're stoked on, I think is another good one. But like, I'm the same way. Like, I'm obsessive about the briefs and the ideas. And I think the other good thing about a brief is like having it be wide. Like, here's a concept, here's a campaign, it ties into what we're doing as a brand, but like do your own interpretation of it. 'Cause I feel like creators don't like to be pigeonholed. And if you are pigeonholed, you make bad content.
I agree. Keep it super macro, tons and tons of ideas, and just say, pick any and all of these ideas and sprinkle just your personal sauce on it.
And on UGC, so I actually spend more time now on UGC briefs and influencer briefs, just at least this last few months. The other crucial one on that is like elevation, where it's like, if you have a good UGC creative, say it's like a male creator and you want to spread it. Okay, I'm going to do a female creator. I'm going to do a older guy, younger guy, black guy, white guy, Asian guy, whatever it is. You're going to spread out. I'm going to get more demographics. It's an easy win for a performing ad asset. But then if you're like, okay, how else do you update this? Or how could you make this work on organic? It's always about elevation, where I'm like, hey, okay, instead of doing this, get ready with me routine in your house like you always do, can you do it in public or in a car or on a subway? Can we give you a little extra budget to go like light it like that or have that extra element, like, or to go get a luxury hotel? It's like, how does $400 elevate that asset like significantly? I think is one thing I'm always looking at when you're taking an existing brief and like adding it on that people don't think about. Same thing with props. It's always like, a previous project I worked on, they built like a prop box and we were working on that constantly. Like, what can we send creators in this box? It's going to cost us sub $100. It'll make the video pop. And it's like reflective jacket or like this mirror. One of them had like a mirror, like vanity that looked crazy. And like, you just start to add those into your briefs and now you're fucking cooking.
Stealing this idea, I'm adding an extra 5 to 10% of overall seating budget to give people and just say, hey, you could spend X amount of money, how to make this video better. That's a great idea.
Yeah, well, also,
do people do that? Are you that guy who does this?
We're doing. People definitely do this. And like, I'm not the only person doing this. Yeah, but like, yeah, also a lot of the strategists are really making. There's like the Twitter people, and then there's like the people that are, and there's some people that are valuable on there, and there's like the people that are really making stuff pop. Like, we're all like on group chats and shit. Like, everyone's trying to share success, especially if you're also a creator. There's like a lot of that. But yeah, like even you'll look at, but we have one where like, I know one brand that bought like 10 or 20 of their best creators Osmos when they came out. And we're just like, here you go, it's $400 for us and your production value is going to be like amazing, right? And then the creator's fucking stoked. It's like little stuff like that goes such a long way. I mean, I even think about that, like I'm a constant, like you'll be on my Christmas list, like I'm a constant gift giver, right? And like every holiday, I'm just sending stuff. Like I sent everybody like Blanked Studio stuff, my friend Brandon's brand, like nice stuff. An entire Christmas, I bought like 70 of his things. Like even this, now that I have my own brand, I send out a ton of that. It's like that stuff goes so far, whether you're as a brand or as a person, just on building up that little rapport that like leads to more relationships.
I love that. I do the gifting too. I think the one huge thing though is in conjunction with them creating the content. I think that's genius. I've never heard or seen that.
Got alpha on here, brother.
I want to wrap up on the influencer marketing side. What are kind of the key KPIs that you're looking for a good influencer outside of following account?
I think it's really just like consistent views. Like I always look at the bottom. I encourage people to do this with me too, where like you're getting me as an influencer. It's like, all right, look at their outliers. Are you going to make a video that's like their outliers, their viral videos? And your answer is maybe you are, but you're probably not. And then you're looking at, okay, so what is their like, what's their ceiling? What's their basement? Like, what's the bottom look like that? And for me, like you're going to get 30 to 50,000 views. That's like the bottom view range of what I put out. And it's like, okay, are you stoked with that for the price range? And if you're stoked with that, then like that is perfect for you. But I'm always looking at that being like, you got to look at the bottom because a lot of sponsored content is going to end up on the bottom. And if you're stoked on the bottom, then run it. When you really look at a lot of creators, especially in that marketing space, their bottom's bad. If it's a bad video, it's thousands of views, 10,000 views. And so I think for anyone to be like basically obsessed with how do I get people where I know the minimum, the worst result is a result that I'm happy with. And then anything else about that is value. And then as a creator being like, how do I kind of minimize those losses on branded content to see people have that standard? And I'm looking at their other sponsored posts. People always look at organic, being like, look at these organic posts they do. It's like, nah, what were their branded posts that crushed? And who put a bunch of spend behind it? Like I did an Anthropic Claude video and they put a bunch of spend behind it. And I show that a lot being like, hey, this is a good video. It did pretty well organic. And they put a bunch of spend behind it because it works. And like, and here's why it works. And this is why we should do a similar brief. So I think there's a lot of it's like, looking at that.
I want to touch a little bit on that. You basically talked about whitelisting there where people are just boosting your posts.
Whitelist everything. If you're running already ads, like whitelist everything. Yeah.
We should dive a little bit into it. I'm going to go super, super deep on that in another episode. But whitelisting for people out there listening is you could do it, chop it up a bunch of different ways. But for creators out there, if a brand whitelists you and puts spend behind it, it just allows their end consumer to see it from a different POV.
Yep.
So you could see, ads from Iconic. You could see ads from Oren. You could see ads from Oren and Iconic. And it's just a
Well,
different,
it can
more
be
unique
in
touch point.
stories, it can be in Explore. This is pushing it to more places, but it helps them. I always I literally just did this with a brand where they want to add whitelisting to them more budget, and I was just like, cool, just add it in there because I want them to get max value. And I guess what you have as a creator, your best ability is to get brands to come back to do another video with you again, or for other brands to be excited to do a video with you because of the sponsored post you did. And if you're not achieving that, then you're not getting max value out of your brand deals. And so I'm always like, hey, put the spend behind it. I want you to that's another shot on goal. If it got to your results organic, awesome. But if it got to your results organic and it got there unpaid, or if it didn't get there organic, but it got there unpaid, that means I'm gonna get another shot. And the value, the time to dollar value of brand deals is ridiculous. And so you want to get that other shot.
And guys, keep in mind as well too, when you do that, you're obviously getting more impressions and views to your profile and building your audience. Yeah. And from a leverage perspective, you get one of those clients, two of those clients.
Yeah.
The brands are not going to probably want to be the first person to do whitelisting. Once you get a couple underneath your belt, you can just point to that.
I can't push it. I can't recommend that comment more because it's so funny. People are, how do you get more brand deals? I'm like, I actually got a lot of my first brand deals because my friends, I go get my haircut at this place called Jack Henry, and I like them. They're really nice guys. They're local in my neighborhood. And I made a video about them unprompted, no money, no anything. And they're like, hey, can we whitelist this? And I was like, even then I was like, sure, for free. Cool. I've never done it. Let's try it. They ran the shit out of that video. They ran that video to the ground.
Free haircuts.
Yeah. And then, but the brand, the other brands were then like, oh, this guy does that. And all of a sudden I got all these brand deals. So I'm actually thankful for the free thing. And I encourage that a lot with creators. I'm like, hey, if you haven't added whitelisting on, or you're trying to budget it $5,000 when you have 25,000 followers, I'm like, get the deals and let them run with them. And it will get way more deals. I get more deals than anyone in my space because I do more deals than anyone in the space. It's that simple.
And if you're a creator too, you can chop that up a million different ways. You can throw it on the front end and get more money up front. Yeah. With probably smaller, more medium brands, you can get 1% of the spend, 1% of the sales, and then looking at the rights. So it could be for 3 months, 6 months, a year. What's really crazy, we talked about this off camera last time, is just you could get 1% of sales and an ad could crack and they could keep it up for a long time, or you could just print money every single month.
Yeah. And that's where people start to realize how much influencers really make. You're like, oh, there's some little things. And you have some of these unexpected, there's unexpected 5-figure in your lap, stuff that happens kind of all the time, which is, again, unpredictable, all these things, but is a truly amazing byproduct of just taking the time to negotiate some things like you mentioned.
Guys, the last segment of this video is going to be how Oren makes money, and it's probably more than you think, so stay tuned, guys. We'll get to that. My next question, actually, you pseudo-answered it, but let's just see if we have any other things that you think are huge, is what should a creator deliver beyond just the post itself to be truly valuable to a brand?
And so I think it's doing whatever it takes to achieve the brand's goals. And so I look at it if I make a post and it is amazing, and it's going to crush and it works for them, great, and it's what we scoped, awesome. If it's not going as well, it's okay, can I put it on other networks? Maybe they didn't pay me to cross post, but I'm on Snapchat, I'm on YouTube Shorts, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Substack, I'm on LinkedIn. Is it going to help them achieve their goal? And if I continue to post it more, then I'm going to go above and beyond and do that. Same thing with the email newsletter is one of the most valuable things most creators don't do. My email list is 40,000 people now. I email them every week. I have someone that works on that. It's a business in itself, but I will 100% hammer a brand deal if I think it's going to help get that another time. And I'll just do it organically or throw it in. Now, also, if they want to, then I also sell all those things basically a la carte, where it's you can also add this on and you'll get a whole more, much more dedicated portion of it. But it's do whatever it takes to help them achieve their goals, as long as you're stoked on it. Now, if I went back and forth with the brand 40 times and we made a whack video because of their insistence, I'm not gonna do any of that shit, right? But if we're all incentivized to win together, go do it.
This goes back to posting on all channels, so you just have more leverage points.
I'm doing Substack right now. It's my new one. 30 days of posting on Substack videos.
Yeah.
See if it works. There's people doing it and they're pushing video, and I was I already have the video and it takes me another 2 minutes.
I'm seeing some crazy, I saw some with Substack. I also saw it with Patreon. I'm seeing some crazy numbers and you see that Joe Budden's Patreon thing?
Yeah.
Doing 20 mil. That was wild.
I don't necessarily believe that, but either way, it's even if you're in double-digit millions, you're fucking killing it, All
right, let's move on. Let's go to partnerships, collaborations, and licensing. I'd love to know, what is your philosophy on what makes a brand partnership actually work?
If your customers get excited about it and you can make good content around it. I think people overcomplicate it, or this is too much, or that's too much. And also brands do a little bit too much, but really it just comes down to those things. That's why I think I like the Represent does a ton of licensing, right? With all the metal bands and all that. And maybe some are true collabs now too, but their customer base loves it. Their customer base is stoked on it. That's the number one metric, is they go, that shit looks sick. And if you can create that, then that is exactly what you want to do.
I think from a licensing perspective, I've been in licensing for 10 years. You have to be very careful. For anybody out there that's looking to kind of sprinkle and go into licensing, it gets to a point where sometimes you cross the chasm and you're looked at more of a licensing company versus a brand company. Yeah. It's so hard to kind of stay on that line. Kith has done it very well. I think Represent Is that kind of like the max cadence? I would kind of slow down.
Well, I think they added it though. Like they had a good brand. They're like, how do we take it to the next level? And they added it with licensing. I agree. They're like pushing it to the limit, but like they push everything to the limit.
Yeah, I think another good idea, another good brand that's doing licensing very well is Truff. Those are my buddies. And they do 1 or 2 times a year. It's based on the marketing calendar, based on the schedule. That just seems very
it's a tool to work
authentic.
in like a campaign. I like to look at it when you're planning your product roadmap. It's like, cool, you have genuine new releases. How much can you do that? Once a year, twice a year? Then you have expansions to your existing lineup. Like I can add more SKUs or variations or flavors or colors or whatever it is. And then it's like, this is just another tool to have in that toolkit to fill up that calendar, right? And so to your point, I think the Truff thing is genius where it's like, all right, they're only doing so many releases, but they can add to the release calendar a non-core product twice a year. That's a wonderful way to increase the amount of SKUs they have.
What do you think is the most underrated value you get from a great partnership?
It's just access to that other audience, right? I don't think it's underrated. I think that's like the biggest rated one. But when or like a fandom, like a friend of mine works really extensively on like video game licensing. So he does all the licensing and stuff for Pudgy Penguins, who are like on licensing fire. And it's just like, hey, if McDonald's people know who Pudgy Penguins is, that's a huge win for that community, like an overstated win. And it's like, and then you got to think about how wide is your TAM and total available market. And like, how do you get the new parts of it excited in a new way? And I think partnerships is one of the best ways to get into that.
Really, really interesting. On the last episode with Brian Garofalo, I always thought that you wanted to go after someone that basically had the same persona as you, but he had a very different answer. It was more about net new.
Yeah. Agree. Well, and also new you can't access in another way. Like that's why video game licensing I think is so popular, because you get this gamer culture that just isn't aware of any other culture outside of it. And so the only way to tap into it is to actually tap into that culture. I think that's an interesting one.
In the past, when you've done different partnerships, how do you usually structure them?
And so typically partnerships like brand to brand, or what do you mean?
Yeah, brand to brand.
Usually paying a licensing fee, or if it's together, it's really like, okay, are we jointly paying for it or is one person paying for it? And then kind of from that, there's economics that trickle down. So if like one person's funding the whole thing, then usually it's like a payment back or something like that. Or if you're sharing costs, then it could be a split. But there's a bunch of different models for that.
One of my favorite models I just want to bring up, something I've never heard anybody do. And every time I bring it up, they like it. I do a window 1 and a window 2. I'm in a single unit dropship business, but what I do on window 1 is we split it 50-50 under the notion that we're both going to hit our organic. There's going to be no paid against it. So if they're going to hit their email, their socials, et cetera, they should eat the same. And then I flip it to a licensing where it's like 10%.
On number 2, you run it
because
back,
I'm going to go.
And you go paid.
I'm going to run paid.
That's super smart. Yeah. So now you got another person being like, that's good.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I'm about to run that.
That's a good one. Take that one. It's a good one. I want to dive right into the money play. I think that for me, I've been dabbling on the creator side. I've been an operator for the last 10 years, and I'm going obviously all in. Everybody here sees on the creative side, and you're someone that I think has a really interesting skill set on both the business and the creative side, and you've made a great life for yourself. So many people know you from the big social media presence. Let's just get to, how do you make your money?
Perfect. So a couple ways. So creator money, and creator money is the most. So brand deals, creator related stuff is like the number one income source now. It used to be a little more split up, but now like that's the big one. And then on addition to that, we have info products. We have Cut 30, which is also pretty big, but I have partners and it's a business. We have employees, it's a whole thing. So there's the info product piece on top of that. And then I still work for brands. Like I'm the creative director at a private equity company that they understand it's not a full-time thing, that I do these other things and they understand the value that comes with that as well. So I still have like working, but that's also, anytime you work at a brand and you are a serious creative professional, that's more of an equity play than like a salary play, right? Before that, I was doing a bunch of creative consulting. So basically I was doing guest creative strategy, creative direction, like workshops. I wanted to go to this position because I was able to consolidate. I have to manage all those things I'm focused on one portfolio. And that's like a useful thing for me to be able to be focused while still having that. So those are really the 3 buckets. But the creator side is like expansive because we have a newsletter, the Hyper newsletter. I have a partner in it. We work on it together. He writes a lot of it. He is a creator in his own right, but we basically have that business. It's a separate entity. We monetize it separately. We will probably sell it separately at some point.
This is specifically a newsletter?
Just a newsletter. And there's brand deals inside the newsletter. And we do these big branded reports. And we've done like some other kind of creative stuff. We did a big YouTube series with this brand Air. We're about to do a second season of, so we're like making some content. But that's a business unit that then has payroll and all that stuff that we're on there. YouTube is a smaller amount of it, but there's ads on every YouTube video. There's the IG and TikTok ads, which is the lion's share. Short form is the lion's share because that's like really good money. And then the info side.
I want to break that down so everybody in the creator space could really understand this in a deep way. I had an amazing conversation after we spoke with Kane for like 2 hours, and just understanding your business model and his business model while we're developing ours was absolutely fucking amazing. I love you for this. And now he's sharing it with you guys. Okay, so let's just first start off with, at the top of this flywheel, for everybody here listening, the number one most important thing is content distribution.
100%.
None of this works unless you have what we talked about in the beginning of this, a content machine, and you slowly build your distribution.
Yep. And capture. Like a lot of this wouldn't work, but the email list is kind of like a hinge of a lot of this that I think people don't quite understand. Because we sell info off the email list, we sell sponsorships on the email list, I have retention on that, I can push to basically like anything, and then if a platform goes up or down, people still live on it.
Yeah, so I think we're going to look at it in 3 different buckets. The first one is quote unquote sponsorships, which could be on social media or newsletter. The second one is your continuity play with Cut 30. Yep. And the third one is your creative director. In that first bucket, the sponsorships, I think for everybody here listening, again, going back to what we talked about in the beginning, the fact that you have all of this distribution and you have the newsletter, when you're going and talking to brands, you have so many different things that you can sell into him and different levers that you can pull. If this doesn't work, you can hit it here and here. Yeah,
completely. It's literally, I'm doing a couple of videos with Framer, which I really like as like a platform. I try to do the brand deals with people I use and like, but it's like, hey, short form wasn't the right. I was like, I don't even know how I can tell this story kind of correctly. And you've seen a lot of other short form that did it really well, but like on YouTube, actually my audience is perfect. So let's do this YouTube deal. And it's an easier investment for them. It's a format I feel comfortable with. Like I love having that toolkit, to your point.
Yeah, and what's crazy about that too is, I mean, it's obviously your time to create the content and the ad read, but it's free. You own it all, so you could just cross-sell everywhere.
Exactly, and that's how we structure the deals, right? So I have like a base rate. Everyone wants an Instagram Reel. Instagram Reel is my most popular thing. It's also the most expensive thing. It's the most impactful. And so basically, it's a core thing of an Instagram Reel. You can also buy a TikTok, but I only really want people to get a TikTok if they're going to whitelist. And so we'll include like, hey, TikTok and whitelisting is like one thing. So you get one of those cores, and you build a package off that, which is like, okay, now it's extra money for, do you want LinkedIn? Do you want email? Do you want like YouTube Shorts? And then YouTube's kind of its own separate beast, but a lot of people will combine a short form and a YouTube. But I think that's in the brand's best interest is like, if you're going to get somebody, reach as far into their following and their bag and create as much continuity as possible. And like most of my deals are multiple networks, like YouTube and short form across multiple posts. Cause then it's like, look, I want to take shots on goal. If one doesn't work, I'm going to go extra hard, making sure the next one works. And then people take a couple times to resonate. And then I will have told multiple stories about your stuff over time. And you can add any of those or run any of those. And I feel like it really creates a world with the brand where they can like really act on it.
What would you say is the single most kind of uniform element across all the companies that you've worked with where there's success? What is the reason why it succeeds?
We make value video. So basically I'm always like, especially on Instagram, I was like, we're gonna make a video that is savable. And so basically I'm gonna make a guide. This is I did one with Paperless Pro that was like an event marketing guide where it's like, hey, here's a common types of events brands should consider. And I break them all down. And then here's how you would use Paperless Pro if you were to enable those events. And they have like a platform for event management. And that is a saved video. Like I look at saves as the metric number one for me, where it's like, I'm trying to get high hundreds to thousands of saves on these because that's especially for SaaS or the kinds of things I sell, more complicated things, the purchase point isn't right there. The purchase point is in a month when they were like, oh, well, we need a CRM. And it was like, oh, I'm gonna go back on my bookmarks for that one video. Or, hey, remember that thing that they shared in Slack 2 weeks ago? Like that is where my value lives. It's like someone is trying to solve that problem right now and we just gave them a solution. Or when they go to solve that problem, we are one of the references. And I basically build that framework with brands around that. Where like, I will get hundreds of brands. I guarantee hundreds of brands will save or have shared this. Like pay me nothing if we don't get 500 combined of those two things. And those people will all have intent.
From a creator, and you're kind of, I would say you're mostly geared towards B2B. Obviously you do,
B2C is a funnel play. Yeah.
For creators out there looking to get into B2B, which platform do you think holds the most amount of value?
Instagram, yeah. Because Instagram is like, I think what people don't understand is that most executives of major companies, VP and C-level executives, are on Instagram casually browsing. And they are DMing to a group chat or to a Slack channel, their teams being like, why aren't we doing this for business creation in their niche? This is a common user action that happens all the time. And that doesn't happen on other platforms. They're probably not on TikTok, on LinkedIn. They're not consuming content in that same way. And so I think there's just a huge proportion of it's happening there. Plus all of the people that are like active decision makers in companies are in the age where Instagram is their best focus.
How long have you been doing a newsletter for?
Oh man, I've had it combined with Clayton for probably 16 months, I think. And we've been doing it total probably 2 years.
Wow.
Actually, you know what? Sorry, I had the newsletter before I started doing short form. So it's longer than that. But I combined it with Clayton about halfway through that process.
So what would you say is the single best piece of advice for a creator looking to get their first social media sponsorship deal?
I think you need to do content that you do any deal. Do something with somebody. Do a free thing, do a thing with a friend, do a thing with whatever. Make sponsored content so people can see that you do sponsored content. Because if they don't do that, then they will never know. The other biggest thing, which for some reason no one seems to understand, is put your email in your bio. Put your contact for that in your bio. I get that question all the time. How do you get so many brand deals? I'll go to the bio and be like, hey, you don't have a contact. That's step number one, is if anyone did want to reach you, they wouldn't be able to. Yeah. I double tap it now. Now it's like written in the bio and it's on the Bitly list. Yeah.
It's so funny you say that because I formerly know funnels, obviously from my direct-to-consumer business, but I'm just learning now about kind of DM automations and really optimizing the funnel. Like right now I have a Hoobie link on my Instagram and I was told that I'm an idiot. I mean, there's certain types of links that you don't...
you can trigger and all the other...
Yeah, all this type of stuff that I had never actually known. I'm learning about it now. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Let's go into bucket 2. So this Cut 30 is a continuity play. Why don't I give you the floor on that? What is that?
Perfect. So Cut 30 is a program where we teach brands and creators to either make content for the first time or make better content. It's a 30-day community. I feel like any course in the modern era like kind of needs to be community-based, or you could just learn the value for free, basically. So we will, in 30 days, people come in, they pay $1,000, and they create... It's about 15 pieces of content with us, and we cover the whole gambit. You create talking videos, you create vlogs, you create one-shot videos, you create carousels, and then by the end, you begin to form a strategy. And so we've run a lot of people through this, like thousands of people now. And I do it with 2 other creators, Alex Garcia from Sweat Equity and Colin Lamforce. We have a team of people that work with us underneath it, and we feedback every post, every piece of content that people put in there gets feedbacked by somebody. And so you will basically make all this content and we're going to work there to help you improve it. And we just have a wild, like so many creators have kind of come out the other end, or brands have come out the other end, like just making better or more successful content. And we run that in 30-day sessions. I think it's like 9 times a year, roughly 8 or 9 times a year.
What's really interesting, this is what we spoke about when we were at Lighthouse. For his bucket 2 and 3, Cut 30, the continuity play, and then his quote unquote job as being creative director in this PE firm, going back to what we said earlier as well, this is informing you on what is working for bucket 1, the sponsored deal to grow your audience.
And this is the hardest part about this is now when I sit down with anybody and they try to argue about an idea I have, I just know innately, like before my career was like, okay, I could be wrong or right. Now I'm right. I'm just right. We have 100 creators, roughly 70 to 100 creators every month in Cut 30. And I know, and they're brands and creators of all sizes. So I have a complete list of like, we're changing this regularly. Okay, carousels are working. This is happening on Instagram and TikTok. I know probably more than anyone on the globe between the brand work and that, like what is working and not. And so it's really hard for me to like take any pushback from anybody on anything. Cause I'm just like, you would have no way you could have the scope of knowledge of what I have on these really specific things.
For everybody here listening to this podcast, I am never going to have a guest on here that is not deep in the game. This is why I love these conversations. And I think by any means possible, you have to stay in the game, or else, again, like we said, 4-6 months, you'll have no idea what's going on.
Well, and if you're enabling people to win, you learn even more. Like the other part of that is like, I have a group chats with like people that come out of that or different, like and a bunch of those more successful creators, and we're all sharing. And I'm the person who encourages that typically. There's a few other people. Bima from Collab Lab is also really good at getting people together. But like, if you're the person who's then the conduit, let's get all 8 of us on a chat. And you ever have a question, like bring it up, or you want to, what rate should I do at this brand deal? Like if you're the person putting all those things together and then you're getting the value of the information seen and you're the connector, it just gives you so much more benefit in life.
Completely agree. We give them value here. So for the creators listening, a really good action steps on how to make money. I would say first and foremost, by any means possible, get a deal. So you can use that as leverage and point to that. Focus on content and distribution. And then create some sort of flywheel where you're learning fast, because that's going to ultimately feed into the other stuff.
Get other creators your size. Get group chats with other creators your size who are like one level above you, and just like start to get to know them. So you guys are sharing info. We would not be anywhere near where we're at if I didn't. I convinced most of my friends to become creators, and most of them are like 100K plus now. And then also I have a bunch of friends who are big creators, and we are talking about it constantly. And that's like extremely helpful. Even people are always like, how do you stay so up to date on marketing? It's like Jordan Ashman and I have a chat where we're constantly sharing the links we come across that you might find interesting about marketing campaigns. So I can think about that. And so I now have a multiplication because we're completely different. Jordan's all sports. Ashman's kind of way more like CPG. I'm way more like aesthetic. And so all of a sudden we just have all of these perspectives in one place.
Good friend group. Good chat there. I would say a big thing too, looking at this from like a macro perspective, like I said, just analyzing what you're doing, what Kane's doing, what other people are doing too, is you guys have a really, really healthy balance from a predictability perspective where you have continuity. Continuity for people listening is just money coming in every single month through these courses. And then you have kind of the one shots on goal through the sponsorships. Some of them might be more long-term, so they're more continuity. And then you have an opening to take a home run swing too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like right now in bucket 3, that's feeding the flywheel and you're learning and learning more. But at any point in time, you have all of this income as a base.
That's the best part about the creator income. Is like, we didn't change our lifestyle. That was the other big thing. It's like the lifestyle, I make way more money than when I was an executive. And we used to live in the same house. We drive the same cars. We already were pretty decent off, but that could really have changed. Like maybe we go on some slightly nicer trips, but what I've done with that is we hire people. We got employees at Cut 30. I have people to help. We have editors. I have management. We have I'm willing to invest in the creative career. And I also know that if everything else went sideways, I'm not, all of a sudden I have this the Miami penthouse or whatever it is, I think people get really caught up in that. And if you have goals and you look at the size of the prize, it's absolutely huge. But look, that's the best part. I could work probably an hour or two a day just making content and have a wonderful life and not have to do anything else. And knowing that if I ever got sick or anything, or God forbid, a health issue, I could do that. It's you get that weight off your shoulders, even though I may not have 10 million in the bank, it's you could know that you have this sustainable thing as long as content keeps going.
He will have 10 mil in the bank.
We're getting there.
All right, we're going to go to the last part before quickfire. Let's go to your team. I'd love to know just the whole entire team behind this. For anybody trying to create a content machine, what does the team look like?
Yeah, so a lot of part-time and then bringing on one more full-time. So I have management. So this company DMG that manages me. So they help negotiate all the deals. I don't negotiate any of those, invoicing, the details of that. They also do some strategy with me. And so there's help there. There's an editor for YouTube. There's a shooter for YouTube. So my boy Eddie comes to my house every week or sometimes every 2 weeks, and we'll shoot YouTube in short form. So I have additional support on that. He'll shoot stuff for a brand. He'll travel with me sometimes. So basically we have, the support from the management. I have accounting support and like fiscal support who help do my P&Ls and all that every month. Editors. I do have a VA assistant stuff, putting stuff into docs, adding everything, doing kind of manual items behind me. And then a graphic designer. Again, this works across, also, I didn't mention inside these buckets, but I have brands I'm partial ownership in, but don't spend a ton of time on. But a lot of these things are serviced on that. And I'm now hiring, I'm not giving those enough attention. So I'm hiring one person dedicated to just brand support. And then the next hire, so that's the 7, I believe, that we have core. And then the next hire is a CRM person. I think we talked about separately, after I saw Gary Vee's team about basically helping manage his relationships and sending DMs and helping get on with other creators, I was oh, I'm actually leaving a lot of money and reach on the table by not doing that.
Shout out Uncle Tyler. Yeah,
Tyler's the man.
Gary's going to have a massive team that's just going to be firing away at anybody.
I saw Tyler and I was how do I get 19-year-old that immediately, Yeah.
That goes back to what we talked about before, is just people that have the lists and the relationships in the economy that we're moving towards from an offline relationship economy. Yeah. It becomes absolutely fucking huge. Quick question to tie up on the team side. So what does your day look like from an allocation perspective, time allocation?
Yeah, so I only try to make content at night, or besides I have Eddie comes once a week, on a big block on Wednesdays. That's actually later today. So I basically only try to make content kind of after hours. I try to spend as little time recording that as possible. So basically I will have a stand-up every day where either I'm meeting with people or I'm assigning stuff to my team. So that's mandatory in the morning. Then I have usually a couple hours of meetings related to the PE stuff where we're just working through things. And then I'm doing big blocks on, basically it's briefing and strategy. And then 1 or 2 days a week I'm in LA, either on shoots or in meetings or doing whatever. But really it's that core of the stand-up. I'm building lists throughout the day. It's a lot of how my content gets done. At the end of every week on Friday, I have a list of even topics we talked about here. I'll make a list after. That's all goes in the big video topics list. So Fridays I'll just go through that and be I'm picking what I'm going to do next. And that goes for YouTube too. I'll just build these big lists. But really it's stand-ups, couple meetings during the day, big blocks for briefing, scrolling strategy, and then a day or two in LA.
What's the one non-negotiable action step you need to take every week?
I have to put the references in the list. Because again, if you're behind, you're just behind, right? It's forever. And then the ultra high value, it's so much easier for me to make a brief if I'm just on top of it, or to do any of these campaigns. And then now one of the next offers I'm working on is I'm gonna try and scale that. And I'm cool, now that my toolkit will enable 100 other people, it makes it 10x as valuable,
All right, last section. We can hit the quick fire. What is the most in-demand position in marketing today?
Creative strategist, creative director, 100%. Basically, the person that is going to say, I'm briefing the ads, I'm briefing the influencer, I'm briefing organic, and then actually can pull it together with the relationships, is I get hit up every single week. People want to call it a creative director, but I think they're actually more junior than that, or more younger, a little more savvier. It could go either way. But people are hitting me up for that job every single week.
What is the most important skill to have as a creator?
I think organization. I think you have to be able to, if you can't turn your creative ideas or the type of video you create into something that is a process or actionable, then you're going to burn out.
That is a legendary answer that I was not going to expect. How many times should you test a content concept before giving up?
I say 6. I talk about this all the time. Yeah, it's 4 to 6. But if you do not give a concept 6 tries, then you have no idea if it's going to work or not.
What's one thing brands should ignore doing on social media?
Reposting stories of people that tag them. Is definitely one. I'm trying to think if there's any other good ones off the top of my head, but posting every day because you feel like you have to.
What's an emerging trend in content types for 2025?
So you're seeing it on TikTok especially, it's just the people raw talking to camera, posting like a lot a day, 5 times, 10 times a day, just doing like quick little yaps or skits with no production, no captions, no nothing is like very happening right now.
Is information or ideas more valuable for content in 2025?
In 2025, it's ideas. It was information in 2024, but I think we're basically reaching the peak of ideas this year as well. Like there's so much like the key format of this year, a format a lot of people popped off with. If I was doing X, this is how I'd do it. If I was running social media for blank, if I was starting this brand, it's an amazing way I actually think to go from here's how this person did it to now showing your own ideas and becoming employable. But that content is like reached peak saturation. So I think we're looking at what comes next. And I don't know what that is yet.
What's the biggest mistake brands make when they try and act like a media company?
Trying to act like traditional media as opposed to acting like modern media. Like act like a creator in their team. Don't try to act like, God forbid, like Puck or like any of these like, or the New York Times or any of these traditional media rooms or hiring people from traditional media. The worst hire you can make in business today is anyone that has worked at a major publication.
The most underrated element of a brand photo shoot?
The behind the scenes. Basically, yeah, no, because like, look, a lot of the content that goes really good, like, is the, okay, here's how they set it up to like, here's what the result is, or how they capture that, or the carousel, you're telling the story of who was on the shoot is like, oftentimes does just as well as the campaign.
And being intentional about it for sure.
Of course.
You recently said Instagram and TikTok are the highest leverage platforms in 2025. Why?
Because again, you can get views. You will show up, make your first video, and you will get probably 100 views on Instagram and 400 views on TikTok out the gate with nothing. So that is a validator. They're basically giving you a free audience that you would basically had to pay for any generation before this. You would have to go on TV or buy an ad. There was no way you would get 100 or 400 eyeballs. And even better, if it is any good, that will become 1,000 eyeballs. If it's amazing from video one, it can become 1 million eyeballs. We've had multiple creators in Cut 30 who've gotten 40,000 to 1 million views on their first video because it was really good. And so the ability to go from nothing to that amount of audience is like, I would like scream from the rooftops at how big of an generational opportunity that is, that like the window is not going to last forever on, that people just ignore.
I completely agree with you. You can just post on either one of those and you're going to get 200, 300. You're going to get it 3-4 times. And then the fifth video is going to be 1,000. It's going to give you some sort of little outlier every fifth video. And then it's about incrementally growing it. And then you just hit a home run.
And if you're great, we were testing this the other day with some brand stuff where I was like, cool, let's just start a new account. We're trying to determine if a brand was cooked or not, like its account. And created a new account, hit a banger video, and it was like 40K right away. And he was on IG. And I was like, oh, like you truly can from nothing. If you like know what you're doing, like hit something.
Is SEO still worth the long game in 2025?
Man, it depends how, I don't think so. It depends how AI SEO is going to function. And I think it's too early to really lean into it yet, but like getting all in on that. And then the other side of SEO, I don't know what's going to happen to it. And it was already questionably worth the value unless you were really a killer at it or you really had something that had a special like search impactful category. If not, it's changing so fast. I think you kind of got to wait this one out.
Guys, Oren's bag is so deep that I had to cut a section on SEO. I watched it. You know what you're talking about in SEO.
Man, I was so deep in SEO for so long.
Bro.
Yeah. I mean, because I had multiple brands where SEO was everything.
Yeah.
And I haven't worked out a client brand. My friend Matt, I used to work for him, this guy who runs a brand called Chlorophyll Water, where I like convinced him, like, don't launch this brand until you own number one for chlorophyll, because he was going to do this whole big TikTok seeding campaign. And it took like 3 months. We got number one for chlorophyll. And then guess what? He gets to go to retailers with like, I have this big viral campaign. I have all this traffic and I have nowhere to send them. And you can tell that story with Google Analytics and TikTok Analytics. It was beautiful.
For people listening for SEO, I think two things. One, it is a super, super long game. It's going to take you 9 months minimum to see anything big. What this does though, is because there's a brand actually in my space that's been in the space for 20 plus years. They have all these backlinks from third-party artists that come on the marketplace. What that does is that just lowers your cost to acquire a customer. You're getting in organic sales. I completely agree with you. There's some AI SEO companies that are raising like a shit ton of money.
Yeah, I don't think we see how that's going to play out. We see the consumer habit changing like en masse. And so I think it's just like making a long-term investment in that right now is like, look at me, might eat my words on this. Willing to be wrong. But I think it's like, I would just wait it out for like a year.
I'm with you. All right, last 3 questions that I ask everybody. Favorite book or podcast and why?
I am a huge fan of, there's a Stephen Pressfield book called The Afghan Campaign. Stephen Pressfield he wrote this book called The War of Art, which is like really impactful. It's like a self-help book for creatives. But he also wrote a bunch of like nonfiction he wrote Gates of Fire, which the movie 300 is based on. But I like The Afghan Campaign because The Afghan Campaign is a book about Alexander the Great trying to conquer the world and how he keeps failing in Afghanistan, much like how the US failed in Afghanistan. There's a lot of parallels to it. But you kind of get this portrait of this guy who's like accomplished all these things and brought all these things together who like still can't solve this problem. That's a book that was really impactful to me.
Entrepreneur or brand that you want to give flowers to and why?
I really feel the House of Errors brand like opened up kind of a new era in streetwear and like streetwear content and like elevating stuff from the beginning of a brand. I think that they've done like an incredible job. So would want to give them their flowers. And I'm trying to think if there's any others that one in particular, I always just think back to like they just from so early just did things so well.
Favorite content creator that you want to give flowers to and why?
Oh man, that's a really good one. I really like Bima Williams. I've talked about, he has this Collab Lab series. And what I love about what he did is that he created the brand with the basics, like the core basics of branding. He used color, he used his outfit, he used the way he like accentuates like the core element like of his brand, like the topics he used to generate a conversation. And like I see purple, I think of him. And the way he's like brought that throughout it, I think he's done an excellent job.
Guys, you can't make this up. On the last episode with Brian Garofalo, CEO of Skull Candy, we talk about the whole entire time.
That's a great, super interesting creator, great guy.
Bro, you are a gangster. I had so much fun. I don't even know how long we went for. It probably was a very, very long time. Where can they find you?
At Oren Meets World on all social media. It's that simple. OREN.
Stuff.
Let's go.
What's up, guys? If you guys got this far in the episode, I would assume that you enjoyed it. If you got any value, it would mean the world if you hit the subscribe button, give it a like, post a comment, tell a friend. We could keep going bigger guests, bigger locations, more value. See you in the next episode.